he has good technique, he will be elite. If his technique becomes great, not just good, then he's a Hall of Famer.
Drive face, full cell vertical, get into the blind spot, and he absolutely burns him. Corner is lost. He literally has no idea where Wilson is.
Long, fast, how he approaches the game, how dedicated he is to football. He's ridiculously good, man. You have to be ecstatic.
This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
What is up, everybody? You're listening to another edition of Blewett's Blitz. A lot to discuss tonight, as you can see by Nania's smirk right there. As soon as the Becton part of the video came up, he started to a little sinister smile. So I'm excited to have both Robby Sabo, who is the man behind the scenes, who nobody sees but is working consistently 20 hours a day, and Nania, the numbers guy. I'm really excited to talk to you guys. Nania, I'll throw it to you first. What's up, man?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to change that intro, that's for sure. Because, with Becton's injury now, which is very unfortunate, which I'm sure we're going to talk plenty about. So, yeah, I was cringing a little bit during that, but very unfortunate.
What's up, Sabo?
Where am I? Who are you guys? What is going on here?
I haven't seen your face in ages, man.
What is going on? What's up, fellas? Just another day in the neighborhood.
I feel like it's such a small purse right now, Anya, because every time I see Sabo's face, it's with Winker bets. So I feel like we're just peasants, we're peasants at this point. But
I am high up on that mountain, not the Becton mountain, but high up on that mountain for sure.
So we're gonna get the thoughts from both Sabo and Nania. Nania will be joining us every other week during the season to recap the games. Sabo will jump on sometimes, but I want to get their off-season thoughts because we really haven't been together in quite a bit. And Nania used to do a show with me every week for the season, so I definitely have to get his thoughts. I'm sure it's gonna be plenty of positive vibes in the stream today. We're not going to get anything outlandish in the chat about guys moving, and maybe we move AVT to right tackle and Nate Herbig steps in and how good of an idea that would be. And there's going to be plenty to get to. But what's up, Swolzy? What's up, Mike? West Coast Jets, which I believe I'm waiting for still Murdoch to join the fantasy league. I think West Coast Jets are the one who got in as well. So it's up to you. Mike says, I live in the same neighborhood. The internet just sucks balls here. Sorry, Sabo. It doesn't make much sense, but it's the truth. Sabo's the Overwatcher. I feel nervous around him. I have to be more prim and proper around
no,
him.
do your thing. Do your thing. No. I'll be the cop. I'll be the bad cop when necessary. You know how that works, but do your thing.
Chris, what's up? Should have picked O-line with Wilson. Yeah, and we're gonna do some of the revisionist history stuff. We're gonna hit the Equano pick, and should they have done that? Should they have done this? We'll get through all that. At the end of the day, Monday morning quarterbacking, we could have drafted stud players in the fourth round instead of drafting whoever we drafted last year. You could always go back and say, oh, this guy over that guy. It's pretty easy. But you look at the context of the situation and what the thought process was going into each pick that he's made recently. I'm pretty much in line with it. So what's up, Chris? Joe's already behind the chat. Yes. Rob D, what's up? Nick, Chavez, Vincent, we miss Sabo. See, Sabo, there's some people out there who are still missing you. What's up, Nathan? Colgrove, Joe the Goat. What's up, Snoopy? Okay, so let's just do the Becton stuff first. Let's get out of the way. I wait for the bigger topics for more people to get in here because people typically just trickle in. So let's throw the difficult part to Sabo because I feel like he's more on my shit list because he's just been gone for so long. So let's throw you out with the difficult question, Sabo. What the hell, man? Obviously, Becton comes in. There's always the questions about his weight. Initially, from the jump, when you draft a guy that big, you're going to assume, okay, there's going to be some questionable, injuries just because of how big he is and how the joints and stuff can't bear the weight that typically bigger guys put on them. So you have that year one, which is more of the red flag to me than year two. Where year one he comes out of 4 or 5 games. He only starts in I think he started 10, but he played in 12 total, something like that. So obviously he didn't play a lot. Next year goes down. Bunch of questions in the offseason. I think there is some validity to the Jets coaching staff not necessarily being thrilled with how he came back and his approach to the offseason. Then he gets injured after apparently looking pretty good in camp and looking in good physical shape. So what the hell is going on with Becton? What are your overall thoughts about him going down right now?
I think the main thing, if you're a fan, you can't be shocked at this. A guy misses a year. My philosophy is you can't rely on him until he proves he can stay healthy. And you're right. Year one was the biggest thing, dude. You can't. He's up against it with his body weight. He's up against it with that weight. And the fact that he left 4 games early, that's concerning. And, I wrote it about it. I think it was right after the last week of the season, his rookie year. Him and Mims both were injured a lot. And it cast a serious doubt on that draft class. What can you do? What can you say? It was like, the way I put it is, he kind of crammed for the final exam. If you're in college, you cram all that studying in for the last moment. And that's what he kind of did. Came to minicamp not in the best shape, per reports, per the way he looked, and then crammed, worked his ass off the last month. Could it have helped him if he stayed in shape better all year round? He was dealing with the surgery. I don't know. Perhaps. I think the coaching staff has handled it right. They dangled that left tackle out there as soon as he came back, and they were happy with him. They said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're at right tackle. Fant, you're at left tackle. So they handled everything right. I saw some fans getting upset that he was limping earlier in practice. Listen, we're not in the huddle. We're not with those guys. We don't know the severity. I'm sure the training staff was on it. And, and in football, there's a difference between hurt and injured. I'm not saying Becton was hurt over injured one way or the other, but as a fan, you can't make a claim. You can't make a claim and say there was negligence. You just can't. So my biggest thing is, you can't be shocked. And you can't play we should have drafted a tackle game. No effing way. Blewett, you were spot on. Sauce was the right pick at 4. It just took one practice up close to see that. The dude is incredible, but you can't play that game, but you can't be surprised either. It is what it is.
Yeah, maybe if you just had to listen from the beginning. We'd been fine with Sauce, and now everybody's coming around to Conklin too, which we're going to talk about Conklin soon, which is great.
And Conklin's versatile too. He could play so many different spots.
Yeah, Nania and Kyle have been making fun of me a little bit with the Conklin
Really?
love that I pour on him. Yeah, the film that we're gonna put out in a couple of weeks or whatever it is. It's a 2-hour gush session. I absolutely love the guy. So, but Nania, throwing into you, kind of just farthering up on the Becton question is did he take his last reps as a Jets starting tackle or tackle in general? Like, what do you feel like happens from here? And then we can kind of go into the secondary options that happen, because right after he goes down in camp, which it looked like his toe got caught. Like, it didn't even look necessarily that bad initially from the video, but obviously it was bad when you fracture part of your kneecap. So Adoga gave the 2 sacks right to Martin. So what do they do now, Nani? And with that being said, obviously, is Becton an option in 2023, or do they have to find a long-term option? And what do you think they do this year that we can discuss some options?
Yeah, no, I think the bottom line is that, regardless of, do you blame him for the work ethic or the coaches for how they handle it, or, the surgery decisions, regardless of who you want to put the blame on, the bottom line is that at this point, you can't rely on him. And it's really unfortunate because of how talented of a player he is, how hard he's worked. And we've talked about his rookie year plenty, how much promise he showed. He did have legitimate elite upside, and still does if he can stay healthy. But at this point, with back-to-back season-ending injuries, preceded by a rookie year where I think he only played in 8 games where he didn't miss a snap. So to this point, 3 seasons in, he's only had 8 fully played games out of, possible, 48, 49. So it's impossible to rely on him. And, do they try to trade him? Maybe they keep him around and just have him compete for the job. There are a lot of possibilities, but I think that you definitely have to operate under the assumption that he's not your starter next year, and you need to make a big move to go get one. So I think that's definitely the way they're going to operate at that position. But as for right now, I think, Dwayne Brown is definitely the guy, and it's starting to get a little frustrating as it lingers out there. Douglas is talking about it, Salah's talking about it, we're working on it, but it just keeps kind of moving on and nothing's happening. So it's a little frustrating, but the fact that, they're openly talking about a free agent from another, a free agent that they haven't signed yet is probably a good sign, but we'll see what happens. And it's definitely interesting because he was brought up before even, I think, the Connor McDermott injury happened, but then McDermott happens, then Becton happens, then the news gets worse with Becton. So the leverage has just been climbing and climbing every single day. So I definitely think that Brown is probably going to get a nice number for this year. So I could definitely see Douglas and the Jets kind of, having some trouble finding a middle ground with him. But it's got to happen at some point.
This is one of those situations they got to have him. They got to overspend 1 year, just throw him all the money, get it done. And with Becton, listen, we all had the concerns when they drafted Becton. We did. But I think the main thing, especially for me, Douglas did the right thing. He drafted an offensive tackle. when the organization hadn't done so in so long. So I think that's what really, really, filled my heart with, okay, this guy did the right thing. And remember, it was during COVID. It was during the time when it was tough to vet these guys. So, hey, it's can't rely on the guy. You can't rely on the guy moving forward. That's the bottom line.
Now, Steve, I want to throw it back to you with Dwayne Brown. You're not the biggest offensive line guy, and you admit that. But with that being said, let's say they signed Dwayne Brown, which for the contract we don't know. It was believed to be like right around like a $4 million base with a bunch of playing time incentives and things like that. Now we're probably looking at couple million more dollars, probably more towards that Riley Reef contract than we necessarily want it to be. But again, they're probably going to have to overspend there a little bit because Dwayne Brown might have the Jets a little bit by the balls. And people say like, oh, we'll just sign him. But you have to understand from his aspect too, like maybe he's waiting for another training camp injury, and then he pits the Jets against that team. He said, hey, give me even more money. Like he's in no rush right now to sign the dotted line. So. And now the Jets, their tackle problems exemplified because even before this injury, I was saying that it's absolutely necessary to have a backup tackle because it's one of the more important positions in the NFL. So now they signed 2 tackles. But with that being said, you signed Dwayne Brown. Let's say the price is, I don't know. It comes out to $10 million for this year. Does he start at right tackle? Does he start at left tackle?
I don't think anyone knows. I mean, he's never played anything but left tackle in his career, right?
Yep.
So Fant, being a team guy, I think Fant would volunteer for the right tackle. I think he would volunteer to go to the right side again, but I think it would come down to Dwayne Brown. I think it would be up to him.
Now, can I interrupt you and say, okay, so now you're Joe Douglas and Fant says, okay, I'll play the right side for you, but pay me my left tackle money.
I think you got to do it.
Yeah, is that?
Because you got to do it, but in a way where you try to appease everybody and try to halfway it. Because it's that important for the offense and for Wilson this year.
No, Nania, would you do the same? Like, would you play Dwayne Brown at left tackle or right tackle? And with that, do you pay Fant? Because Fant is he's a team leader. He came in here immediately and was a team leader in his first season. And let's say you don't sign him. Now you have a hole at left tackle, a hole at right tackle. Is McGovern back? So all this capital reporting to the offensive line quickly gets turned over. We need to address more capital into it. So do you sign Fant? Do you keep him at left tackle just because, hey, he's going to be our long-term left tackle? We need to sign maybe a Daryl Williams or whoever. We're going to talk about some options at right tackle. Do you keep him there for sake of comfortability and just knowing he's a long-term piece and try to plug in right tackle? Or do you kind of adjust everything on the ship now and say, okay, Fant back to right tackle, learn next to ABT now, and we'll move you back again next year? Like it's a really tricky situation.
Oh yeah, it's really tough just because there are issues with both decisions, and ultimately it's still a positive. Getting Brown, I think he's far enough above the rest of the options to where you accept the decision you have to make in terms of which side to put him, just to get the best talent to help you right now and recover from the Becton injury. But it is a decision because do you make this long time, decade and a half veteran switch positions a month before the season, or do you make the guy who you declared to be your left tackle, who you're also having contract discussions with, do you make him move over to the right side?
And this is all depending on if Fant duplicates last year. So
right,
I say, listen, we don't change our view about you, even with this move. If anything, it elevates your stock in terms of what we're trying to do. But hey, you don't say this to him, but he knows he's got to prove it again. You got to do it another season. And that's something I'm willing to do. Absolutely.
What's the and quickly we'll move on to some options, Sabo. What do you feel like is like a fair price for Fant? I know it's hard to do it on the spot, but we do that all the time in this show. So
I don't.
I do it to Nania. I do it to Kyle Smith all the time.
Nania would know more on the salary. Kick it to Nania. I mean, it depends on his production. It depends. What do you think, Nania?
Maybe in that, just off the top of my head, without looking up the numbers, like I was just about to. I'm gonna put something out there first, then I'll look it up. But going right off the top of my head, probably something in that $15 million a year range. I think that's probably the going rate for
the same general
quality starting tackle. Yeah, I think that's what I go with. Maybe like 345, something like that. 3 years, 45 mil.
Yeah, I'll be comfortable with that. I think now Fant, there is a drop off from left tackle to right tackle. I don't necessarily think it's as drastic as some people think it is. I think he's an above average left tackle. At best, I don't think he's a top 10, top 10, however you quantify that. I think he's a solid left tackle. I think he's a average right tackle. So you're not getting him at the strongest position, but just in terms of, getting our best offensive line together, I would probably say it is Fant at right tackle and Dwayne Brown at left tackle. But are the Jets discussing with Dwayne Brown right tackle? Is that why it's taking him a little bit of time? Are they looking to bring in two guys? Like at this point, why not bring in Brandon Shell and Dwayne Brown? Like I know they're having to move some money around, but I don't want to go into the season with Connor McDermott or Chuma Edoga as a primary backup unless they are talking about the hype around Max Mitchell is real and they really do believe he can be a backup. But again,
were you at the green and white scrimmage, by the way, or no?
No, I was not.
Okay. I was wondering if you saw any Mitchell at the green and white scrimmage because he wasn't with the ones at all until McDermott went down and until the Becton thing happened. And now they're pushing him in there to see what they may have. So I was curious to see if you saw any of it.
No, can you expand a little bit of Sabo? I don't know if you really you hit on it enough, but I kind of want to just re-hit it. A lot of fans are talking about, and you're at practice mostly every day. But the fact that Becton was limping around before, he had the brace come on. He again was injured. People saw him adjusting his knee brace after plays, and he looked like he might be hobbled a little bit. So you kind of talked about hurt versus injured, which that's a football term. If you're hurt, you could play. If you're injured, don't play. So was it a combination of Becton telling the staff, okay, I'm ready? Was it the staff maybe seeing him a little bit hurt and saying, hey, listen, this guy needs to fucking push himself and he needs to play through this because there's a couple of weeks into the season? Like, where do you fall on that? Because there's a lot of chatter right now about blaming the Jets for this injury.
The chatter's crazy. I mean, it's football. I don't know if the coaching staff was aware or not. I don't know if the training staff, I don't even know if Becton said anything, but I do know I didn't see it prior to the injury. It did happen. I didn't see it, but I also know the day before, 2 days prior to that, in individuals, in positionals, they were going through one-handed punch drills, and there was a rep where Becton didn't like how Becton ran it, challenged him again, and you could tell Becton was taking it seriously, knocked over Becton with one hand. I actually caught it on video, but I didn't put it up. That's a different story. And just knocked over Becton, looked like an animal, looked fine to me, completely fine, completely mobile. And this was the day or 2 days prior to the injury. So, it comes down to, sometimes it comes down to, other stuff. It's very easy to dominate. Football's very easy when you dominate, and it's very easy, high school, college. When it gets to this point, the injuries are included in this. Availability is the best, trait, the best ability. Sometimes it doesn't work. So I don't think fans should get all over the training staff or get all over the coaching staff. They did what they thought was right. I think it's each party's to blame a little bit. Becton, coaching staff, everybody.
Now, Nani, I'm going to throw this to you, and then we'll talk. Actually, let's talk about some hypotheticals. Are we all in agreement that there's no way they're moving ABT to tackle? We can't move ABT from left guard to right guard to tackle.
Unless there's a complete disaster that happens where they're like, all right, we have no other options at tackle.
There's multiple injuries in a game, and it's a spot start, and then Herbig moves to guard, and multiple tackles go down. Okay, good, because he doesn't have the arm length. He has good athleticism inside. His athleticism is not for the outside.
No, you don't want to. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to cripple yourself like that.
Yeah, let's squash that. Now the draft. Okay, Wirfs versus Becton. I think maybe in the future. Maybe Joe Douglas will take the higher floor player and not the higher ceiling player, to be completely honest. And with Ekwonu this year, like a lot of people just, again, revisionist history. Oh, well, they should have taken Ekwonu. The thing with that is that you never get the chance at Sauce. Like the thing with Sauce is you get Sauce and the risk of Becton working out, or no risk of Becton working out and no Sauce. So you're just completely replacing. You're not even giving it the chance to work out, which at that point, he had an injury riddle the first year. His second year was obviously a big injury, but there was still a chance that Becton could work out, obviously. So do we not want Sauce now? And Sauce is a better player than Ekwonu. Let's be completely real. Like Sauce is an absolute monster.
It's not even close.
So Nani, I'm going to give you a very loaded question. Give me all the top 10 tackle options, wide contracts. All that's I know. So it's Daryl Williams, right? Who was playing tackle with the Bills, but then struggled, went back to guard, right?
Yeah.
You have Eric Fisher. You have Dwayne Brown. There's Brandon Shell. Like, what are some of the top options? Who do you think would fit here with the Jets?
No, well, I mean, I think, obviously beyond Dwayne Brown, I think Daryl Williams is a guy who's come up, but I would be a little bit skeptical of him because, he's had some good years in the past at right tackle, but last year it only took 3 games for the Bills after extending him the previous season to move him inside to guard. That's how much he was struggling. So I would be skeptical of Daryl Williams, but there is some upside because he is only 30. And I say only because that's relative to some of the other options that you're looking at. But yeah, he's only 30. He has had some good seasons, but last year was a huge red flag. But Brandon Shell, I think, is a guy to consider if Dwayne Brown doesn't work out. I think he's improved a little bit the past couple of years in Seattle, kind of got close to maybe a league average starting right tackle. So he's someone you could potentially look at if Brown doesn't work out. And since he's a pure right tackle, you also avoid the problems with Dwayne Brown that will come, in terms of which side do they play on. So those are a couple of guys. Bobby Massey, who played for Denver last season. He's on the Cardinals for a while. He's still, close to league average tackle. He's 33 though. So there are quite a few of these 30 plus, maybe average, below average starter kind of guys out there. I think Brown is probably the most talented, even though he does have that issue in terms of him and Fant, which side do they go on? But I think those are some of the top guys that look at. Shell, Bobby Massey, but I think Dwayne Brown is definitely the best move. And also I was looking at the contract numbers for tackles in regards to Fant. So if Fant got $15 million a year, that would tie him for 19th among tackles. So you think that's a fair price?
Yeah, I think he's probably asking for a little bit more than that. To be honest, he's at least going to be asking for that.
It comes down to the guaranteed money, basically. But yeah.
Teron Armstead just got that this year over 5 years. Let me see who his guarantees were.
Yeah, and the thing with like Dwayne Brown too, and I think
he got $43 million guaranteed. 5 years, $75 million, 43 guaranteed. That's Armstead this year.
Yeah, I think it's about fair. And I think people look at Dwayne Brown and his numbers from last year. I think he dipped a little bit, but again, like, why did he dip? How much do we really trust PFF? Is there a reason for the dip? Obviously you had Russell Wilson who was injured a little bit. Did a new quarterback screw some protections up, let up some more sacks? Is that where he dropped? Like, there's so much context to situations that I don't want to say, like, oh, he's dropping off, he's gonna be bad. But yeah, no Ekwonu. I'm cool with Shell. Again, the people just think about the Shell that we had from a couple of years ago, but obviously he's progressed a little bit. There's some options out there. They just need to address it quickly because I think that the season starts in 31 days, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to get through the chat a little bit because I'm always behind the chat. I'm just going to hit it. And then we're going to get some offseason recaps. We're going to talk about green and white scrimmage. We're going to talk about some training camp happenings. We're going to talk about some quotes. And then that will take us to the end of the show because you guys are always going to light up the chat. I'm never going to be able to.
My dog's chewing on my couch over here, ripping it apart. So if I'm screaming, just ignore me.
Are you so is my dog better than your dog? My dog does not chew on my couch, Sabo.
This just started out of nowhere. Then it's 2 holes in the couch. Anything with stuffing in it. It somehow she gets to it. I can't figure it out.
Well, you got to figure that out. Maxwell,
she knows I'm trapped. I can't leave the desk right now. I think that's what it is.
Maxwell, we got NFL football in 24 hours. You guys have a ton of. Now, what are your guys' thoughts while I scan this out? Like, people are saying, oh, well, why don't they just let Max Mitchell, Adoga, all those guys compete at right tackle, see if they're good enough for the position, and then bring a guy in? Or I don't think either of the three of us are buying that. Just bring in a guy, and then if they develop, great, but we're not going to rely on that development.
No, I don't agree with that because, I mean, especially Mitchell, he's going to be here the next few years. There's no reason you can't just allow him to develop and maybe next year make his play for the starting job. But right now, you just got to have the highest floor as possible. And, let's be honest, regardless of how he looks in camp or preseason, a 4th-round rookie, coming from a non-Power 5 school just has a very low floor. And that's not what you need right now for Zach Wilson's crucial second season. So, yeah, I definitely think, give them a look, but I don't think you can wait to address this problem until you see what these guys have in preseason. Edoga, I don't even think counts. We've seen 3 seasons of him. That's off the table for me. I mean, maybe he can improve a little bit, but yeah, you gotta address this with the highest floor player you can get.
Yeah. What's up, Daniel Murphy? I saw Daniel Murphy. I saw. Yeah, but what about? By the way, my Mets are now in front of the Yankees. Just in terms of record, obviously swept. The Mets are fucking. They're tearing it up right now. Like even with
Mets are good.
they're even with Vogelback, like Ruff, like just those minor additions they made has made the lineup so much more like versatile and so much better. But I'm happy. I think they're only second to the Dodgers, right? I think the Dodgers have a couple more wins than them, but the Mets are on fire.
Slightly. And Vogelback's like a folk hero, that dude.
Yeah. Oh, dude, when he walked, like, I'm not the biggest baseball guy. Like, I know Mets players, Mets games. Like, that's all I really know is the Mets. And then he walks up to play. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is the guy, and he's awesome. Though. I really like Vogelback. But let's get into some of the offseason stuff, and then I'll keep running to the chat again. Sorry if I missed some stuff, guys. You guys blow up the chat, and you guys know how it is. So I'm always behind. But let's get into, again, I don't want to do player by player offseason recap here because we've talked about it for so long. But because Sabo's been gone for so long, we have to at least recap it. He's blowing some cobs off his freaking mic. So Sabo, offensively, free agency. How do you feel the Jets did? Is there a signing you like more than others? Is there a signing you're a little bit more down on? Like overall feeling with all the guys they brought in through free agency offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. It particularly Tomlinson on the offensive side, and then Whitehead and Reed. I mean, you could tell how frustrated the Jets were, the coaching staff was with the youth in the secondary last year, right? Reed has been a big brother to Sauce, all summer long. And their communication, dude, I'm telling you, their communication, the secondary is ridiculous. It shouldn't be this good with 3 new guys. 4, really. 3. Joyner. I'll include Joyner because he was hurt. They're really communicating well for how new it is, but it's really veteran laden now. Whitehead's good. Reed's good. Joyner, hopefully he can stay healthy. And then you put a stud like Sauce in there, and Michael Carter, who I love in the slot. I really liked free agency. They didn't have to go crazy. Fans always want the stars in the moon with free agency, like the NBA. Just throw money everywhere. It doesn't work that way. So I really liked it. And then Conklin. The key is availability, instincts, and versatility. And I think Douglas learned his lesson from that first draft, like you just talked about with Becton with the high ceiling. Because Saleh and Douglas, especially Saleh, they knock on wood on the podium every time injuries are discussed. And that's going to be a question, whether or not they're going too light right now, trying to protect against injuries. But so far it's working out, other than Becton, which nobody should be surprised about. But yeah, free agency, Berrios at a good dollar. Who else? Lakin, the 2 DBs.
Now let me
Marcel Harris.
Let me put you on the spot a little bit. I'm gonna throw it to Nania with it. I guess the overall offseason or overall free agency. What is your favorite signing, and what is your least favorite signing? Like, who do you feel is maybe overhyped? Who do you feel is a little bit overhyped, underhyped? You've been at camp. I know. Listen, people. I don't think people understand how hard it is to really see exactly what's going on in camp.
You got to focus on a certain spot.
Yeah, but with that being said, who are some of the guys again? Underrated, overrated, just in terms of who you've watched on film, and then maybe carrying that over into actual training camp as well.
Yeah. Some fans know, like when you're at practice, you got to focus. There's no replay, so you got to focus on one particular spot if you really want to gauge it. If you just want to see what the hell happens, you just look at the general play like you do on TV. But I'll go Whitehead as underrated. I love Reed, but I think Reed's getting the credit, so I like Whitehead the most right now. He just brings stability, a lot of stability, and he's kind of that leader back there where they communicate a lot. And Reed's again been Sauce's big brother. And the one I least liked, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Out of the big ones, I guess I'll go Azuma by default, but it's not. I mean, I still like that signing, obviously, but it's just because I like Conklin more because he's more versatile.
Yeah, Nani, I'm gonna throw the same question to you, and then I also want to hit this as well, so you can answer 2-parter. Does this the Becton thing? I didn't really hit on this. I kind of wanted to, but people again, I think we thought we are gonna have like a top 10-ish offensive line. I think this drops them to, above average. Again, how do you quantify that 14 to 16 range? Maybe the potential to be top 12. Because listen, like at the end of the day, last year when Dan Feeney was subbing in, and we had games with Chuma Odoga and games with McDermott down the stretch, and the Jets were running the hell out of the ball. Now you've added the tight ends. You've added Lakin Tomlinson. So like just adding Lakin Tomlinson over GVR, we should be a lot better of an offensive line that I was already kind of running the ball down people's throats at the end of the year. So I think this offensive line is still going to be good. So it doesn't derail the Jets season. Now maybe Does it cost them? I don't know, one game, sure, but like, you're not going to go from 8-9 wins down to 6 or 7 wins because of one guy, because we didn't have Becton last year. We're not replacing what Becton did last year for the Jets because he wasn't on the Jets. You're replacing what Morgan Moses did with the Jets, and then replacing that with obviously adding all that they added, including obviously for the offensive line, Lake and Tomlinson. So they could be much better than last year, which towards the end of the year was already pretty effective. So I don't think it derails them. But thoughts on that, Nania, and then go into the offseason, I guess, just in general. You're on mute.
We lose him.
My bad. Okay, but yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying regarding the O-line, because I think, the O-line is a 5-man unit more so than any other position. I mean, obviously none other are 5 men, but just the way they work in cohesion is more important, I would say, than any other position, just in the sense that, one star lineman can't carry an offensive line. Whereas if you have one great pass rusher, one great corner, one great receiver, like those guys can still make a huge impact on their own, regardless of everyone else. But the O-line has to be 5 competent players working together. And the good thing about this unit is that, even outside of Becton, they have 4 solid starters out there. So as long as they could plug that hole with another competent guy for this year, then it could still tread water and be a unit that you could run your offense with and, just have good enough pass protection, have good enough run blocking. So the ceiling definitely takes a huge hit. You're not going to get anybody right now who comes close to Becton's potential, and it's going to be hard to find that even next year. But in terms of the floor, just finding someone who can make this, 5 guys who can work together and make this functioning unit, you can definitely do that because of the other 4 players that you still have. So I think the offensive line's floor is still pretty high, but, definitely the potential takes a hit. And I think that also is a reason why going with Sauce over, the security tackle is still the right decision, because Sauce has the potential to be that type of player to where he's a consistent Pro Bowl corner who really changes your defense with the way, that he can play. Not like, look at what Revis did for the Jets in his prime. Not to say the Sauce is going to be at that level, but, a corner who is that good can really be a game changer. Whereas one lineman, and that's not to say that it isn't great to have a superstar lineman, because it definitely is. But again, you need to have an entire cohesive unit on the offensive line, whereas one corner can definitely change a lot for you. I think more so than one lineman. So I think that would be my argument for why Sauce was still the right pick. And they obviously just saw him as the best player available. And I think that's the general correct strategy for drafting. So yeah, I agree with you on the O-line. It's a huge hit, especially to the potential, but the floor is, I think, still pretty good. And like you said, at the end of last season, the way they're running the ball, I mean, they were 13th in yards per carry last year, the Jets, over the course of the whole season. And,
wow.
That's with all the injuries and everything. So you throw in the additions they made this year, like you mentioned, and it definitely has the potential for them to climb into that top 10 in terms of how efficiently they run the ball. So, so yeah, I think the offensive line still has plenty, can be a good unit this year. But going back to the free agent additions in terms of favorite and least favorite, I think now my favorite would probably be Conklin. After having digested it all, I've watched Blewett's entire film review. I watched some Conklin games myself. Obviously, dug deep into his numbers, and I think he's going to have a good year. I'm probably more confident in him outplaying his contract value than any other free agent that they added.
How often did he line up in the backfield in Minnesota?
Not often. Not often. I remember. Not often at the top of my head. And like people ask me like specific questions, I always go into it, be like, oh well, what is his exact weakness against them? Like, dude, I watched him 3,000 reps ago, so I forget. But no, I don't remember him aligning in the backfield a lot.
Not
like,
much, right?
Talking like a sifter, like a lead blocker, inserter type. Not so much.
Okay.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Nania, so same with you. You haven't noticed that either?
No, I don't think there was a ton of that. I mean,
okay.
But yeah, I think overall with Conklin, just like the efficiency of his route running, and the route running that you see on his film shows up in some of the separation metrics that are out there. He definitely is near the top in some of those. His hands, And then just the versatility as a blocker, especially in pass protection. I think some of the things he could do as a pass blocker are really impressive. Some of the reps that he has against, Nick Bosa, Chandler Jones are crazy. Like, they'd be great reps if a tackle put them on film. And he's got these one-on-one victories on an island. So he does a lot of things well. I think he's going to have a big season in both phases. And I think my least favorite, I would probably have to go to Uzama. And that's not to say it's, he can't be a useful addition, but I think because I see Conklin overtaking him in terms of the production in the passing game, I could easily see Uzama kind of, having more seasons like he did with the Bengals, where it's like, 400, 500 yards, couple touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, which is okay and still great for a Jets tight end. But he is, I think, making $8 million per year on his contract, so it might not be what you expect at the price tag. So I would probably say he was, in terms of contract value, probably the worst value, but that's not to say he still can't be a useful addition. And to have 2 competent tight ends in this offense is definitely going to mean a lot.
The reason why I ask about Conklin is because what he can do in a pinch will determine the other, who else is in the tight end room. Like, who's going to we know Ruckert's going to be on the team. Bowden at fullback. Who's going to be that last guy if they carry 4 tight ends?
I think it's really competition like that, and I'll get into this later with 53-man roster prediction, but I think it's really between like Baldwin and Wesco. I think they both kind of fill the same role but at different positions. So are you going to keep 4/5 running backs with Baldwin being one of them, or is he like a quasi tight end, whatever it is?
Yeah,
but I think that's a spot for one of those guys, because like can you keep a Yeboah, Cager and keep a Baldwin? I don't see the room on the roster when you're talking about guys like Vinny Curry getting cut. I can't see it.
That's the problem. I kind of think if they could carry 3 running backs, if Carter and Hall are healthy and Tevin Coleman's healthy, then they could just go 3 running backs and try to sneak Knight on the practice squad. Then they got Bowden, and I think they might even go 4 tight ends with Bowden. But with Ruckert, they have to carry Ruckert. He's more of a receiving guy. Maybe they do go Bowden and Wesco. I don't know. That's interesting, because the floor likes his blockers.
For sure.
So.
And Conklin too, like what Nani was talking about, and the thing, like, and you saw Minnesota's, like the coaching staff's faith in him too. Like, not only, and it's not even like nakeds or anything like that. Like they ran true PA dropbacks with him blocking at the end one-on-one, like 7-step drop, not quick hitter stuff where, okay, just chip him, stay inside leverage. Like, they gave him true pass sets. So I'm excited about Conklin too. I've been blowing him up since they signed him, and now people are starting to see it, green and white scrimmage, all this stuff. So hopefully some people remember the hype that came from this channel very, very early on with Conklin and some of those guys, because I definitely backed him. But let's get into the draft, and let's get through. We have a ton of freaking people in the chat, which I appreciate everybody in here. I think we need 20 more people to hit 7K, so hopefully we can get to 7K tonight. That'd be very nice. And hopefully another signing is broken tonight, because I think the JFM signing broke when Nani and I were on. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I still have the screenshot of your face when that happened. So hopefully Dwayne Brown signs tonight. But Nani, we'll throw it to you first, because we went to Sabo with the training, or with the free agency first. So overall draft, I know it's really hard to do. Okay, here, give me your opinions on the entire draft. 2 minutes, go. But as best you can overall, I think we're all really happy. But if you can offer any insight or feelings in the individual picks or the overall process, just shoot.
No, I think the coolest thing about the draft is just in terms of this one for the Jets is just the overall process in terms of how Douglas went about it. I think, going into it, we were all expecting to have to make some sort of sacrifice in terms of addressing needs. It was with the 2 top 10 picks, it was, most of us, I think, were on board with Sauce, but then it was, then you had to pass on either an edge or a receiver with that 10th pick and bypass that until later. So just the fact that they were able to, take their BPA and Sauce at 4, which, was a position of need, but not the greatest position of need. And then, still knock out both of the other top positions that I think we were looking at in terms of receiver and edge by making that trade up for Johnson I just think it was really impressive how Douglas showed that aggressiveness and that willingness to go get his own guy. So yeah, I think that was the coolest part of it. And I think the reason that it was so great to see is that it wasn't long ago where Douglas in the draft was seen as more of a trade down kind of guy, like a stockpile picks type of GM. But now this year he flips that on its head and uses a lot of those surplus picks to maneuver the board and get his guys for a very important season for his own job security, for his franchise quarterback, and the future of this team, to play the short-term game a little bit more, or not necessarily short-term, but getting more high-value picks instead of making more quality over quantity. So I think it was good to see him kind of show that aggressiveness in the draft. And I think at this point, we've seen drafts like the first two where he's more focused on stockpiling picks. And then we've seen this draft where he's shown that he's willing to go up the board if that's what the best play is. So I think it was just really cool to see him go get his guys and make the moves that he needed to make.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll do the same thing with free agency. What was your favorite pick and what was your least favorite pick?
I think in terms of free agency, favorite and least favorite player.
No, for the draft.
Oh, for draft. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Favorite pick. I'm gonna go with Sauce. I think just because, like I said earlier, I think there were definitely other directions they could have went, but I think they went with their best player available. Because I feel like I know for me personally, I think I saw cornerback as a little bit of a bigger need than most people because of, it was at the end of the day, even though they had young players out there who played pretty well, they still gave up enormous passing numbers last season. I think the second highest opposing quarterback rating in the league. So the corners still needed a lot of help. So I like that they weren't complacent there and they, picked their favorite player. And I definitely feel the most confident, as you would expect with him being the highest pick. But I probably feel the most confident in him being a successful pick out of anyone in the class. Least favorite pick, I mean, it's hard to pick a least favorite. I guess, Clemens was surprising just that they'd take another edge considering how deep it was, but I think he's won a lot of us over by this point. I don't really have a pick I don't like. But I think the most surprising to me was probably the Breece Hall pick. That one definitely surprised me a little bit. I thought they were going to go defense there, either safety, linebacker, D tackle. So that one definitely wasn't on my radar. And I think it's a little bit of a risk in the sense that I think if you're going to take a running back that high in the draft, and it's not super high, granted, it's a second round pick, not a first. You do have pretty high expectations for him. You want him to be a really good running back, not just decent, I think. So I think the expectations are a little bit higher for a running back at that spot of the draft versus, if you did take a safety or a defensive tackle. So maybe that one surprised me the most, but I don't think I had any that I don't like.
It's just so shocking for a team who doesn't value corner to, invest so heavily in DJ Reed and Sauce. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm so confused. They don't value corners. So Sabo, same thing to you. Overall draft thoughts. What went down in it? Obviously, the Jets pretty much unilaterally, I don't know if that's even the word I'm looking for, dominated the draft and just people like grading it out. NFL Network, whoever it may be. So overall opinions. Favorite pick? You're gonna say Sauce now because you're dude. You're so freaking busy that you can't. I know you can't like really entrench yourself into the draft stuff.
Yeah, this year was tough, man.
But now you're watching Sauce every day in practice, and like you are like blowing the kid up. Like you absolutely love what Sauce brings. So I can answer that question for you. But
listen, like I didn't get much into the film with the prospects this offseason, but holy crap, I think for our projected draft picks, I went with Iquanu. Just thinking Douglas, O-line, that stubborn guy he is, wanting to build inside out. But I couldn't be happier that he took Sauce. This kid should not move the way he does with his length. It's that simple. Like anytime he has it's 1 versus 1. He has one man and he knows his responsibility as that man. He locks that guy down. Whether it's Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, he just locks the dude down. He has all the talent in the world. It's absurd. It's near fictional. There will be some moments. He's still got to feel his way through zone in a lot of spots, but my God, he should be a superstar. And the only thing that would stop him is himself. So hopefully that doesn't happen because he does have the right attitude too. He does the right things in terms of not worrying about how he looks. working on certain techniques when special teams break out. Him and Reed do their thing in the corner. So, Sauce, great pick. I like Garrett Wilson too. As you know, I liked Garrett Wilson. He reminds me a lot of Santonio Holmes. Worst pick, I guess I'll go Clemens with Nania too, only because of the numbers game. They got so many D linemen. It's gonna be tough now to carry Jermaine Johnson and Clemens. I mean, what are they gonna carry? 10 or 11 D linemen probably. So
I think 10's the absolute
happy
minimum.
overall. What's that?
I think 10's the absolute minimum with the defensive
Yeah,
line.
yeah,
I
absolute
think
minimum's 10. 10 or 11 for sure.
In my projection, it's going to be 11. I just can't see cutting a Curry or a Huff or one of those guys for a Bawden, a Wesco, a Yaboa, a Jeff Smith. It just wouldn't make sense in terms of how they're building. Again, like a solid. And he had that quote like, a luxury or a luxury today is a need tomorrow, whatever it is. So I don't think they're gonna, excuse my French, but fuck around with the defensive line when that's really what their bread and butter is. But with Sauce, it is nice. And we'll talk about some of the quotes and stuff like that from training camp. But it is nice to hear literally every single person. And it's not like the general, like, oh yeah, Sauce is great. It's like people are going out of their way to praise Sauce. And now we're seeing him be the first one on the field, last one on the field, like all that stuff. Like it is real. Like he is that.
His
that
change
guy.
of direction is comical. Like his hips are comical. It's ridiculous. A guy at 6, did he grow late? Like, did he not hit a growth spurt until late in his, in high school? It feels like he's one of those types of guys where he just had the mobility and agility early on, and then he hit a growth spurt, because I can't see any other way that this is possible. No, I'm serious. Like, it's that legit. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah. So we're going to hit on, and I want to hit on some training camp stuff too, Sabo, because obviously you're there, so you can give us some insight. But before that, let me get into the chat because there's a ton of questions. I am already quite a bit behind, but I'll throw some random stuff out here and we'll answer it really quickly before we get to the green and white scrimmage, some training camp happening, some quotes, and then we'll just hit the chat. Stay until about 8 o'clock. If you guys have to jump off earlier than that, let me know. It's fine. I can talk to myself for literally 5 hours in a row, so it does not matter. But a question for you, Robbie, from Dave. How has Calvin Jackson looked as a whole for this camp? And do you think there's any chance he might make it as a wide receiver 5 or 6?
I don't think he'll make it because it's just too tough. And it's a great thing that they're going to have really tough cuts. Hopefully the injuries hold up and they're not really injured. But Calvin Jackson looks good out of the slot. Rashard Davis has looked pretty good. The question is, with the expanded practice squad, I think that becomes a huge strategy when you're a coaching staff trying to decide who to keep. So Jackson and Davis, those two have done very well for themselves in terms of, the Jets wanting to keep certain guys, but do it in a strategic way.
Jen Pak, this is to I'll throw it to Nania. Nate Solder, not the best option, right? If Dwayne Brown doesn't happen, I heard he's one of the lower options. He really has been struggling, at least last year, but the last few years, right?
Yeah, he's definitely he is available, and he's a bigger name because he used to be a good long-term starter, but he's definitely one of those guys who's fallen off pretty hard. I don't think he should be one of your preferences.
Another question from Dave. I'll throw this to Sabo because you were there. Who are 1 and 2 safeties behind Joyner for the free safety spot? And I was going to ask this before I'll kind of lump in another question. Will Parks apparently the last couple of days is impressing. I think he does have an off chance to make the roster. So I think it's a really a competition between like Ashton Davis, Pinnock, and Will Parks for 3 spots, for 2 spots. I don't know if I'm off base there, Sabo, based on what you've been seeing, but is there a chance that a Pinnock or a Davis could be cut for a Will Parks, or what do you kind of see happening at safety?
It's going to be really close. I do think they like Elijah Riley, but I think he's on the outside looking in. He just doesn't have the range. And I like Riley too, but Parks is ahead of him. Davis, still a 3rd round pick. Eccles, outside chance they go shorter. If they keep Pinnock, they can go shorter at corner, and consider Pinnock an extra there at corner. But I think it comes down to between Eccles, Parks, Pinnock, and Davis. I think one of those guys are gone. And I think Parks is really doing well. Parks has been pretty impressive. He's just, he's flying all over the place. He's finishing tackles, which you rarely see in practice. It's not in a hero ball way either. Like he's really putting himself in good spots. His instincts seem to be on point. So it's going to be a tough decision. Blewett, if it was up to Eccles or Pinnock, no other factors, who would you keep?
Eccles.
Okay.
He's proven something. Like Eccles has proven at least that he could be a quality backup corner, where Pinnock, he didn't prove anything to me last year. Like
and they were trying
Jaguars
to move him
game,
around, and
the Jaguars game, the text, like all that, it was good, but based on PFF numbers, based on film, it was not good at all. So if you're asking, okay, yes, a thinner position at safety with Pinnock,
yes,
but Eccles
and Joyner, you want Joyner, he's locked in, but man, you just gotta hope he stays healthy.
Eccles has proven something, so I'm keeping Eccles. I think another interesting decision with a lot of those backups is like Guidry is becoming a guy who's overlooked in this roster.
Oh, Guidry's great. His instincts are really good.
So at that spot, Sabo, I want to ask you a couple more questions, and we'll throw it into Nania as well. But with that, okay, do you keep 7 corners? Because at that last spot, you're obviously keeping Sauce, you're keeping Reed, you're keeping Hall, you're keeping MC2, you're keeping Eccles. And now that those last 2 spots, if there is 7 spots, is between Hardy and Guidry. Do they have the flexibility to keep 7 corners right now?
I think I consider Guidry 5, Eccles 6. So I think Hardy, they don't want to lose Hardy. There's no question about it, because they want that veteran special teams guy. But they have so many other guys who could fill that role, fill those special teams roles. Eccles, Guidry, Jeff Smith. They have so many guys. Ashton Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So Hardy's one guy to keep an eye out for. If injuries don't happen and they're still deep, Hardy might have to watch out.
So then this is an easy question for you, Sabo, to throw it to you quickly. Kickers, Zerline versus Pinheiro. Zerline hitting some deeper shots, but a little bit more consistent. It seems like it's a
toss up. It's a toss up still, but if I had to bet, I'd go Zerline.
Okay. Reed has been doing individual drills still, right? Then the question for Sabo. He's been out with a hammy. Didn't do green and white. He's not going to play in the game. Saleh did say he expects him to be back next week, but again, their injury prognosis is not necessarily the most accurate. So they need him to rest up. But he's been doing individual drills.
They've been cautious with him. And I wasn't there today. I was there the previous 2 days. He wasn't in teams. I just think they're being cautious.
Mm-hmm. Ode Abuchi, Nani, is he still available? I don't think he's available, or maybe he's listed as a guard, but I didn't see him at tackle. I don't know.
I think he is available, but I'm pretty sure he's been playing guard the past few years, and that's where he kind of started to improve. So, I mean, maybe. I just think it's at guard where he's been playing the best recently.
How good is Conklin? He's gonna be pretty good. I've been on the train of that he's the most underrated signing this entire offseason. And kind of like Nani talked about, like just in terms of, okay, Uzama's the disappointing signing. I don't necessarily think it's disappointing. I just think like you look at their contract values. I have no idea how Conklin got less than Uzama, but that's just beyond me. Maybe because of the Super Bowl and stuff like that. But you'd think that coaching staffs and scouting departments would go a little bit deeper than that. So I have no idea how that happened. But Daniel Murphy, I'll throw this to you, Nani, before I get to the rest of the chat and we get into some of the other topics. Is Dwayne Brown legitimately the best tackle on the market? Last year's Pro Bowl seemed more because of name than actual performance.
No, I mean, he definitely wasn't a Pro Bowl level player last season, just based on, the consensus that I think I've gathered from, his numbers, reading, Seahawks fans, Seahawks writers, just putting it all together. I think he clearly wasn't a Pro Bowl level player last year. There's definitely popularity Pro Bowl. There are a lot of those in the NFL, especially for O-linemen. As an O-lineman, it's like once you get to one Pro Bowl, you kind of just keep going back regardless of what you do. So he wasn't a Pro Bowl level player, but I think he still is the best available. I think he's still solid based on what I'm gathering.
Somebody should ask Jamal. Jamal would know.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead and ask him. I think he would know quite a bit. But yeah, I think he's solid. He's probably the best available. Not a Pro Bowl level, I'd say though.
I'll throw it to Sabo. Sabo, how do they improve the run defense? What's your overall opinions on the run defense? Because at this point, I think we'd all agree that's probably the biggest weakness on the team. Obviously, Zach Wilson, that's a whole different question. But on the defense, at least, it's the run defense. So what are your feelings on that? Obviously, it's really hard to evaluate the run defense, especially in training camp where you can't bring guys down. But it looks to me like they have a lot of boom or bust tacklers, whether that be Quincy Williams, Quan, Jordan Whitehead. So are they hoping that one or two guys boom every play, and that kind of makes up for the bust because they don't necessarily have meat inside? So,
I mean, as you could tell with you guys know this, with their intentions this offseason. Foley to Jacksonville, the right move. He's a 3-4 guy. They bring in Solomon. They went lighter. They went quicker. They're fully embracing this scheme, where it's gap attacking. Solomon Thomas is going to be very important to this defense. Like, he's got to be able to, and I don't know much about him, to be honest. You guys would know better than me. How has he been against the run in his career? Because that's going to be critical. Him and Q on the inside, I think, is going to be the main duo with Rankins and Shepard behind. And who will play the 2-eye in the base? I'm leaning towards Solomon right now over Quinnen, but I think they're going to try to be versatile in that way, where all those inside guys could play both. But we'll see. I just want to see the defense, the front seven, start to gain an awareness on what the offense is trying to do, because we saw it last year. The offense slow played them to death, counters, draws, anything, screens, anything to get them going downhill. And they just have to recognize that sort of stuff. And can Salah do it? We'll see. So, but it is a concern the run day. Whoever asked that question.
Yeah, Solomon Thomas is again another boomer bust guy. Like he's interestingly sturdy for 270, which he offers some explosion, but at the same time, while he's sturdy for 270, you're still going to get moved by an ace block. Like it's going to happen. So it's going to be
it's a legit worry for sure.
They're the Jets, and this is kind of with all teams, but to me, if they are down early, it's going to be a big problem if teams are just running the ball down their throats. Like they need to put themselves up early in games to allow allow their pass rush and their secondary talent to kick in. If teams are just going to start attacking Quincy Williams and the inside of the Jets run defense, it's going to be a little bit rough.
They're everywhere.
And obviously we didn't get any favors with, hey, here's the AFC North right to start. So we'll see what happens with that one. Nani, I've been seeing some stuff, if I'm not even going to highlight in here. It's just a revisionist history stuff. We should have drafted Ike Ekwonu. Again, people are going to say that because now, again, you have the hindsight of knowing that Becton's injured. Do you agree? And I'm assuming that I know Sabo agrees because he's the new biggest sauce guy. If you get him a sauce chain. By the way,
give me my sauce foam number one finger.
I don't know if you saw the sauce chain, which I'll show you if you haven't, Sabo. But Sauce was unequivocally the better prospect than Ekwonu for all three of us, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
By the way, did you see the sauce chain, Sabo?
No, let me see. Hold on.
I put it together for
what is dangling there? What is that?
It's literally a Frank's hot sauce earring that I just took apart and attached it to a sauce chain. So it's like a $15. It's just me being an asshole.
That's nice.
So past that, let's keep going through some of the chat. I appreciate that Harold's back on our good side. Rich, appreciate this, by the way. Have to do the quick shout out. Jets X Factor is incredible. Joe Blue is my absolute favorite. My new second favorite are the other X Factor shows with these dudes and the other guy.
Oh, that's a cop out. Just ranking everyone second, tied. Come on, who did that?
But Rich, who is your second favorite? Is it the CYJ pod or is it Sabo and Wayne Corbett? We're just
go with
pressure
Corbett. Come on, man. Give me the easy way out with the star power.
I gotta block you. I gotta block you if you don't answer it. Appreciate that. Hawk says we'll tape together Uzama and Ruckert. They could play right tackle. Let's see. Steven, I'm gonna highlight it for a second. I appreciate it, Steven, but we don't want to be doing that.
What do you say?
Something about hit the like button, douchebags. When V-Man grows up, he wants to be Nania. I'm not sure who V-Man is off the top of my head, but apparently somebody wants to be you, Nania. So that's always that's
V-Man.
V-Man.
Oh, V-Man.
V-Man wants to be Nania. I don't know exactly who that is, but again, James Wighouse, one of our own, is in here.
Mr. Quarterback.
Max Mitchell. Let's get Max Mitchell into this conversation. Max Mitchell's chances of relieving the right tackle duties. Nani, what are your thoughts? You watched some film on him. You've crunched the numbers. Do you think it's smart for the Jets to just throw him into the fire? Do you think he's a year off? What are your feelings on, again, a draft pick who a couple of years ago for the Jets, 4th round pick, you're starting automatically. That's just how it was. So what are your thoughts on Max Mitchell?
Yeah, no, I mean, the potential is definitely there. Your film review, I'm pretty sure that just came out. You can see it. He clearly does have the potential. And even considering the competition he was facing, separating him from that and just looking at the fundamentals and the technique and all that, he definitely does have a chance to be something in the league. But with all that being said, I think you just have to be objective and be honest that a 4th round pick coming from Louisiana is not going to have a good chance of playing well as a rookie in the NFL. So I think it's probably best to keep his projection limited to the future more so than this season. And I think you just have to go out and get that veteran tackle to hold that position down for this year. Can he be the backup swing tackle though for this year? I think he could show them that he's capable of taking that over Edoga and McDermott. But again, will he play well in that role this year? I'm not entirely sure. I think offensive line is probably one of the toughest positions for a rookie, I would argue. So I think he's definitely going to have a shaky year this season if he plays. I don't expect much from him this year, but long term, there definitely is some upside there. I think he could absolutely next season make a play, depending on what they do at the tackle spots. Do they sign a big free agent? Did they spend a first round pick on it? Depending on the additions they make, I think he could put himself in the mix next year. But this year, I'm going to keep the expectations pretty low.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw this to you, Sabo, from Afram, who I appreciate being in here. I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, but he's popping up now that Jets football is about to be happening again. Who is your surprise cut if you had to have one?
Hardy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big. I mean, Hardy, Pinnock, and then on the very outside looking in, but I don't think it's going to happen. Asher Davis.
Yeah. Pittle is one of the guys who's really on the Ekwonu train. So when they were about to draft, was your plan to draft Ekwonu and then trade Becton? Was your plan to draft Ekwonu and play him at guard? Like what were we talking about here? Or were you saying that again, Sauce was great, but now that we have the benefit of the doubt of knowing that Becton's injured, yeah, take Ekwonu, but still, like to me, it was worth the risk. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't play that.
I mean,
you can't play that
Jets
game.
O-line as a whole unit is not a mess. I think this would be a little bit different if it were previous seasons where, one great player kind of was the only thing that you could hang your hat on with a unit, but they still have AVT. They still have George Fant, Laken Tomlinson, who they just signed, Connor McGovern. There's still plenty of talent on this offensive line. I don't think he's going to be running. Zach's going to be running for his life.
And much improved blocking, Bowden and the tight ends.
Yeah, tight end as well. There's still a lot of blocking talent on the team. It's definitely a blow, but it's not going to break the team, I don't think.
A question from one of our own, James Wighouse, put out some great QB-centric articles typically, but some corner stuff as well. I feel like that's usually James' wheelhouse, right? Quarterback corner, some receiver stuff. He asks if we touched on the Laken Tomlinson and Quentin Williams interaction on one Jets drive. I don't know if either of you guys watched that. If you have any opinions,
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. So I did watch it, and I don't like watch it. I'm like paying attention to every single second. It's more of like a background type deal. I don't know what else I was doing, but it just seemed like Quentin Williams was asking Tomlinson to hold him accountable. Like if he sees him slacking off at all, like hold him accountable if he wants to be one of the greats. So it's nice to see that Quentin Williams wants to be great, but I don't know if there's any other takeaways that you'd have from that, James. But yeah, it's nice to see obviously Q wanting to dominate, which I can throw to you because it's one of our training camp discussion points is that Q is apparently playing really well in the backfield all the time. And a lot of these, I think the day after the Becton injury, Zach Wilson got sacked like 4 to 5 dropbacks, but a lot of people think automatically, no, that that's against the tackles. But realistically, it was guys like Quentin Williams who were working against the strength of the Jets offensive line in the interior. So is Q really playing that well, Sabo? And what are your expectations for him this year? Like, is he going to have that breakout year?
In terms of if he's playing that well, it's impossible to know in camp. I mean, you see him flash at times, but I've also seen Solomon flash at times. 2 days ago, he beat AVT, which is a rarity. You couldn't see exactly how he beat him, but I know it was good hands in some fashion. Just undressed him, which is a rarity, but that's good to see. And it had nothing to do with anything training camp wise, where they're not going 100%, just flat out beat him. You see some of that from Quinnen, but do I expect that full out breakout? I'll lean towards no, just because it's the safe money. But I hope so. I mean, he's capable of it for sure. We know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Now, Nania, what are your feelings on Quentin Williams going to this year? Because Obviously drafted very high. His first year is pretty productive. His second year, he strings together a couple of really, really good games. Year 3, we didn't see as many dominant games as we did in year 2. So now year 4, second year in the 4-3, penetrating attacking type system. What are your expectations for Quinn Williams? Because at a certain point, he's going to want a contract, and we're going to assume it's going to be pretty hefty. But how much does he need to prove or show statistically to earn said contract? Because right now, let's just say, general number like $19-20 million a year. He hasn't lived up to that yet. But will he this year? And what do you think his future kind of outlook is with the Jets, if you had to guess?
Yeah, I mean, Q is in a really interesting spot because he's been undoubtedly a good player so far. Like, he's probably a top 20 defensive tackle in the league, pretty much no question. But he has the talent to be top 5 to 10. He's had stretches of multiple games in which he's played at that level, specifically the second half of 2020. And I think earlier this past season, he was playing at that level. But this second half of this past season kind of tapered off a little bit. And then, he started pretty slow his rookie year and his second season. But so the consistency hasn't really been there. But there have been a lot of flashes of him having the ability to legitimately be one of the best D tackles in the league in both phases. And I think that's what makes him unique, is the ability to be a 2-phase player. And on this team, with the lack of run stopping talent, that's going to be very important for him to be dominant as a run defender this year, in addition to what he does as a pass rusher. So this is a huge season for him and for the Jets in evaluating him, because, like you said, he's going to have a case for that huge type of contract because of his draft pedigree, because of the flashes he's shown. But he needs to be more consistent for the Jets to justify that. So he's got probably the best talent around him, provided Lawson's healthy, that he's had in his career so far. So it's definitely going to give him the best situation, I think, to put up pass rushing numbers in terms of getting more sacks and those big splash plays that could really make him stand out and justify the type of contract. So for him, because I know he can be that type of player, a unquestionable Pro Bowl defensive tackle, and he's just got to string it together more consistently. So hopefully this situation can allow him to do that.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, like with Q, and I get the fact that, okay, if the DNs aren't like pinching that pocket, they don't have to step up into it. It's gonna be hard for Q to get sacks. But with that being said, you're trying to make $20 million a year. You got to produce. And last year just wasn't good enough, just outright. And I get the stats said that it might be a little bit better than it was and all that stuff. Film test, naked eye test. I didn't feel the impact.
Blewett's a Q guy too. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, William, I want to hit on this just because you asked it. We hit on it a little bit before. ABT as a tackle is not an option. To me, it would be really, really stupid to move a guy from left guard to right tackle, especially when his body's not necessarily cut out for tackle at the NFL level. Now, absolute emergency, 2 tackles go down in a game. ABT moved to right tackle. Herbig fills in at guard, yes, but not a long-term option. There's absolutely no way. Rich, one of our biggest supporters. Last question, I'll relax for a bit. One thing I've been pissed about lately is the Douglas trashing. Everyone forget how well he did overall. One player goes down on the hot seat. Stupid. Yeah, overall, if you really go through, and again, the process versus results, a lot of the process that Douglas has had, I really haven't hated much of anything. There's a quibble or two I have. Last year, the tight end, the kicker position, backup quarterback. This year, not having a tackle yet. Maybe some quibbles with not taking, a linebacker over Clemens, like little tiny stuff. But for the most part, agree with what a lot of that he has done with the Jets. And people will trash him like, oh, Ryan Khalil, such a bad signing. It's like when you talk about Ryan Khalil, people act like it was the number one center. Like he signed him right at opening gate at the start of the free agency, when really he was the last possible option he can kind of go to fix a absolute trash center position that the Jets had with
you got to understand the intention of the move. He didn't draft anyone. He took over from McCagnon after the draft, after free agency, and saw a need that he needed to improve. So throw a Hail Mary. It didn't hurt them.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was better to throw that Hail Mary, like you said, than just rely on, I believe it was Jonathan Harrison at that point, which oh my God.
I mean, in terms of money, it was just a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. We went from we're saying the Jets offensive line's gonna be trash this year, which obviously it's a big hit. But like we went from Ryan Khalil / Harrison and Brian Winters, GVR, and like Brandon Giacomini, like all these shitty players we've had. Like, let's be a little bit appreciative of what we have. Obviously, it hurts a little bit that Becton's injured, but we got to understand Becton didn't play last year. Like we're replacing Morgan Moses when we think about the offensive line. So
even the best GMs, the Hall of Fame GMs, miss constantly in the draft. It's not just about the draft ever. Like that's just a small portion of it.
Welcome back to Rusty. Moore is looking like a version of Steve Smith Sr. That kid is special, which I'll throw it to you, Sabo. Again, you've been at camp. I can keep prefacing it with that. Elijah Moore, is he the real deal? Is he going to take that second year leap like I personally expect him to, and I think Nania expects him to too. Jets X Factor is we're big Elijah Moore people.
Oh yeah, I love Elijah Moore. He was last year's version of Sauce, not to the same degree, but the first time if you understand the game and you see him up close and personal, you're like, okay, this guy's legit. You just know he's that nifty and shifty and smart when running routes. So the only thing he lacks is size and radius, I guess, but he's got everything. So I expect him to make a leap. I don't expect Pro Bowl or anything like that because that's an absurd expectation at this point. But yeah, he's the real deal.
I'll throw this to you, Nania, from Harold, one of our biggest supporters as well. Does the fact that the advanced stats show the Jets weren't as bad against the run, does that ease your fears about the run defense, considering that we signed better secondary run defenders, which is a part of it. Like Bryce Hall was not a good tackler last year. Outside, you add guys like Reed, like Sauce, like Whitehead, like Quan, who to me I think he's not a great tackler, but I think it's a little bit overstated in terms of how bad he is at that aspect. So yeah, they added some beef in the secondary at the second level, third level, but it's still a concern for me. But I'm not as concerned as I was last year. And people like they're almost like offended when I say, okay, if we could be like the 20th, 21st best defense in the league, I would take that this year because of the run defense. Maybe a little bit higher than that, but it's still a massive concern for me just because you kind of compile, okay, teams typically start slow or start the year slow with tackling. The Jets are notorious, or at least at this point, for being light in practice in terms of tackling.
Yeah, I think
and you're playing the AFC and you're playing the AFC North to start. Like it's not a good combination. So I am worried about the run defense to start. But Nani, any solace in the fact that the advanced stats show that we're not as bad against the run?
I mean, I think in terms of those numbers, they were still mostly considered pretty bad. They just maybe weren't league worst level. Like, for example, I think they were 24th in yards per carry allowed. And I think their Football Outsiders ranking was 26th, I think. So maybe they weren't the worst in the league, but I also think they kind of benefited in those numbers from, like, they were getting beaten so bad in a lot of these games last year that opposing teams had a lot of those garbage time runs against them where it was just, clock chewing. And that kind of helped them a little bit. So I think, I agree with you guys. I think there's a lot that I'm optimistic about with this team, but the one thing I'm very willing to admit that I'm skeptical about is definitely this run defense. And you said it, Robbie, like they're so light on defense at pretty much every front seven position.
Except for edge, really.
Except for edge, they do have Jermaine Johnson there. Vinny Curry, Clemens can bring some size. JFM could kick out there, but at linebacker and interior specifically, there's not a ton of beef there. And we saw last year, with the way that they're playing, they're so explosive, getting upfield, penetrating these gaps, but there wasn't a lot of discipline to it. And it was very easy to exploit with draw plays, traps, these types of runs where it's very easy to punish guys for playing the way the Jets do.
And the other thing is, I'm sure Blewett saw it, but Sauce is not a Deion Sanders in run support, in run defense. Like
super willing. He needs to clean up his technique though. He's a lot of bend from the waist, and he's gonna get trucked over a few times in the NFL to figure that out. But
in terms of his body, yes, but position on the field, from what I've seen this August is solid. Like he's willing.
Willing, yeah.
Yeah, so I expect more Revis than Deion in terms of run support from the outside.
Now I want to run through the rest of the chat really quickly, and then we'll get to the rest of the training camp stuff. So I'll answer some stuff quickly.
It's tough for a guy that tall too. Like it's really tough for a guy that tall.
if we sign Brown and pay George Fant as a left tackle, but move Fant 1 year to right tackle, then next year back to left, and he says no, then doesn't that make Fant selfish? I think Fant, if you're willing to pay him left tackle money, but then move him to right tackle for a year and tell him, hey, okay, next year to be left tackle, but you paid him already as left tackle, he'll do that to me. I don't think there's a question that he would do that for the Jets. And like, listen, last year we all talk about like how bad he is at right tackle. Didn't he win the job at right tackle to start the year last year? He started off as a right tackle to start that Carolina game over Morgan Moses, right? So maybe he improved last camp. Like, listen, he didn't see a ton of starting reps at right tackle in the league, so who's to say he couldn't improve from what he did in 2020 with the Jets at right tackle? So it is a possibility, but Chavez Vincent says if Zach plays top 15 to 20, we win 9 games. While I scroll through the rest of the chat, Nani, I'll throw it to you. Zach Wilson plays to that average-ish level. Do you feel like 8, 9, 10 wins should be the expectation for the Jets?
Oh yeah, I think if he plays at that level, it's definitely in range, because I think quarterback's been the main thing that has held this team back from being able to be a league average sort of team the past few years. And if you can get that, like we saw in 2015 with Fitzpatrick, that's sometimes all you need for the rest of the team to lift you up and be a competent team. I think their run game, their pass defense this year is enough to, with average quarterback play, be a 9-win team for sure.
Sab, I'm going to throw this to you because I wanted to ask a question about Zonovan Knight. Kyle went back, wasn't overly impressed with Zonovan Knight's film, but it seems like he may be running back 4 through camp. So do you see him as running back 4? And then with that, Chris, I would say that Coleman would be a surprise cut. I think he's pretty locked in for that third spot. But so, Sabo, do you have a general feel on running back 4?
So I don't know if Kyle responded to me on Twitter, but it was a misleading tweet I put out there in terms of his shiftiness and elusiveness. I meant in terms of what I expected from him for his type of play, for his body. He really gets downhill, in a fierce way, and his vision is pretty solid. I do think he has a chance. I do think the Jets are looking at him, but it would take a Tevin Coleman injury. That's what it would take, I believe.
Yeah. Salvatore, you think any UDFA receiver or Rashad Davis makes the 53? I think the best or UDFA wide receiver. I don't think they do. I think that 5th, 6th spot is Jeff Smith and
Smith
Mims,
is
right?
5, and then if they carry 6, it's Mims. But if they trade Mims, maybe they just keep 5.
Now, with that green and white scrimmage, which we can kind of get into now, I'll lump that in. Mims was seeing early reps with Wilson, and apparently the last couple of weeks he's been seeing some 1 reps, even though he's not necessarily targeted right away. And obviously you can't talk about certain lineups and things like that, but it is what it is. So with Mims potentially seeing some more 1 reps, do you think he makes a team? Is he traded? Obviously there's some questions about, okay, are they hyping him up to trade him? Like, what is your feeling on Mims right now? Because I've been talking about it in recent weeks. Like, if you can get 20, let's just say, I'm not good with numbers, but 20 catches, 215 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Mims, it would probably be a successful season. But does he even make it to the season for the Jets? Do they trade him? Is Jeff Smith receiver 5? Like, what's your overall feel on Denzel Mims, Sabo?
I think if no injuries happen, I think gun to my head, they probably trade him for whatever they can get. If injury happens and the guy's not there, if it's a Moore or Davis or Garrett Wilson, then they'll keep Mims on the roster. I think it'll come down to that. He's clearly behind Jeff Smith on the depth chart, even though on the very first day of camp, that was Mims's big day. He caught like 4 or 5 targets. I don't know. I never keep the stats, but you could tell his attitude was much different. He was aggressive. He was attacking the ball in the air. When you're a receiver, you can't be timid. You got to feel like that is your ball and no one else's. And in the past, I felt like Mims had that attitude, casual, carefree. Not so far this camp. And 2 days ago, even he got into the mix with, was it Isaiah Dunn? Dunn was all over him. Could have been a DPI. They didn't call it. And I didn't see any punches thrown, but they got into it. He was getting chippy. So you see a lot of fight there, and I like that. He's trying to extend his catch radius. He's trying to do everything that the Jets want him to do. So he's definitely, his mindset has improved. But I think if no injuries happen, they'll probably trade him. But, if they carry 6, he'll be there.
Now, I want to follow that up too. And with Mims, like, he's not necessarily the best fit because he's not the best route runner. But in terms of like tight splits, getting crack blocks on linebackers that this offense asks, like, he's actually a very good fit for just the run aspect of the offense and the yak. Now, with the Mims question, people always kind of lump in, okay, well, why did the Jets coaching staff want him to learn all of the receiver positions? How do you feel about that topic, Sabo? Because to me, like with all of the hurry up and the motions and the tight formations for the Jets, like you have to know all those positions so they could be flexible in terms of like checks and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not a static offense where, okay, we call this play, you line up at X, you run that route. Like there's so many things interchanging in the offense. You have to know all those positions, and people kind of gave him the benefit, like not the benefit of the doubt. Let's be real. People are a little bit, there's some kid gloves with Mims. Like he sucked last year. Let's just be honest. Yeah. He sucked. Whatever all the reasons were, he was terrible. So he has to step up. If he was on another team, a lot of people would be shitting on him if he was on the Dolphins. So let's just be realistic with the guy. He was terrible. He should know all the positions. That's what a lot of the other guys did. We didn't hear about Barrios pitching about it or Elijah Moore. So it is what it is. Do you feel the same way about that? Like
I do.
Because people really are soft around the Denzel Mims thing, which I want him to be great too. People, let's just be real about that.
It's the second round pick receiver curse. Fans are holding on to. And 2 years ago, I could excuse it more because the Jets didn't have guys. So you're hoping and praying that Mims becomes a superstar. Guys, it's the best thing in the world that he's not in the top 5 at receiver right now, because that means they have guys finally. So consider it a blessing. Physical traits are just one piece of the puzzle. You have to be a professional, a worker, and the coaching staff knows better than us. So if Mims comes back with a better attitude, like we've seen, credit the coaching staff, because doing what they did last year with him could be the reason it turns it around for him, even if he does go somewhere else and play well. So I agree with you fully. You do need to know every position, I guess, except for the jet motion, orbit motion, Barrios special kind of position where Denzel Mims wouldn't do any of that. But yeah, you see the better attitude, but I'm completely with you. You got to count your blessings that you got Davis, Moore, and Garrett Wilson, especially. Even Barrios, he's a reliable slot guy, number 4 type. So they're in a good situation.
Yeah, like at a certain extent, I get the excuses for Mims, but you got to grind past them. Like everybody has some excuses, and
you got to grind. And it goes back to the first draft, Becton and Mims.
And you hear Barrios like in a recent interview. Sorry to cut you off, but I thought you were going to say that. But in a recent interview, Barrios was talking about like the learning all the positions to have that flexibility, because it's hard to get cut when you have all that flexibility. So he had a completely different mindset than Mims, clearly. But with that all being said, Nania, I've not been throwing questions to you because I've been asking Sabo because he has the benefit of being at camp. Overall, a situation where fans are either going to chop your head off or they're going to love your take with the Mims stuff. But what are your feelings on Mims going into this year?
Yeah, I mean, just like Robbie said, I think, from a fan perspective, I think the Jets are getting beyond the point where you really have to attach yourself so much to every little bit of hope you can get in young players, because, they're at this point now where there's a lot of talent and they have the ability to build a really competent all-around roster versus, a couple years ago, you really had to hold on to everything you could get, when in 2020, the only things that mattered were what is Becton doing, what is Mims doing, what is Pirine doing, versus now you have a whole roster full of guys who you can root for. And I think it's a great thing that they don't need Denzel Mims to be great, So I think he'll make the roster. I think it's been a cleaner camp for him versus last year, just in the sense that, he's been healthy. There hasn't been drama. Even if he hasn't, been exploding, he's been, I think, doing his job more so than last year. And so I think he'll make the roster, and, he's going to get out there at some point and he's going to get some reps. Guys are going to get hurt. And, especially Corey Davis, I think Mims is the best replacement for what he brings among anybody who they have at receiver. So he's going to play, and he's just got to be able to capitalize on it better than he did last year, because, he got his opportunities last year. He had games where he ran a lot of routes, played a lot of snaps, but when he's targeted, he dropped passes. When he was playing, he committed penalties way too much. So it was not good. He's just got to capitalize on it better this year. But
I forgot about those penalties.
Yeah.
You had like 9 reps, like 4 penalties, 5 penalties, like whatever it was. And people, and again, this isn't even like, oh, let's watch film. Like the play in Carolina, everybody hypes up like, oh, he got in for 2 plays, he had a 40-yard reception. It's like, yeah, they blew a coverage and Wilson found it. Like it's not like it was a crazy play. But with that being said, green and white scrimmage, some other notes from that. Sabo, add anything if you want to, but we're gonna fly through this and some of the quotes and then get to some of the chat because we only have a little bit more time. But Conklin was making a bunch of plays. He gets a touchdown on the first offensive drive, which obviously pat on the back to JetX and specifically me with that one. I know Nania was high on Conklin too, but Wilson was solid, but still looks like he might be staring down some receivers and not necessarily processing as quickly as you wanted to, Sabo, I believe. Sauce was good. Is there any other like notes you have from the green and white scrimmage?
Overall, green and white, and overall, the secondary I think is going to be tremendous. D-line, just stay healthy. Offensive line, again, stay healthy. Weapons are going to be good. Zach Wilson is the big thing. I mean, it's not like he's playing badly. I'm not saying that, but I don't think the true picture of what's happening is matching the narrative right now, where I think the narrative is a bit above, bit rosier than what's happening on the field. And a lot of that goes to the DBs, how well they're playing. There's very little separation in teams, very little. They're locking dudes down. Zach Wilson, does he look more comfortable than last year? Yes, but remember last year he was impressive in August and in the preseason he was impressive. It wasn't until week 2 when the everything flipped and he just went from 100% to 0%. So it's one of those things where he just still gets struck. I kind of explained it where he gets struck by lightning and he'll overthink an easy throw and everything breaks down. So you just need to see more. I'm on the fence still in terms of what I think he's going to, in terms of how much he's going to improve. And maybe that's a good thing because maybe that tells us that the DBs are really doing good.
Now, I want to throw this to you, Nani, and then to Sabo as well, because obviously he's been there. One of the last like training camp topics I have, minus the quotes, which we'll run through really quickly. Again, it's not necessarily organized. You guys can just stop me whenever. We'll discuss some of those quotes. But linebackers, this obviously you have the top 3 with Quincy Williams, with Quan, with CJ Mosley. Do you think they carry 5? Do they carry 6? Marcel Harris seems to be, I think on the depth chart, he was ahead of some other guys. So does Marcel Harris make the squad over Sherwood, Hamza? Like, what are your feelings on that, Nania?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the linebacker competition, or at least the decision in terms of the cuts they're going to make is going to be really interesting, especially with Quan in there now. Because I think there could be a surprise cut here in terms of the 2 guys they drafted last year, between Nasruddin and Sherwood. And then beyond that, there are some interesting candidates, like you said, Marcel Harris, who I think they had as one of their first team guys in the unofficial depth chart. Not that that matters at all, but just something worth noting. But overall, this depth chart is going to be interesting because beyond Mosley, I feel like it really is open for competition. We know they like Quincy Williams a lot. Quan is obviously probably the most, definitely the most talented player of all the non-Mosley players. But then you have Sherwood and Nasruddin, who they seem to be pretty high on. And we know that Saleh and Ulbrich are linebacker guys. That's their background, coaching linebackers. They've had success with it. And these are 2, relatively moldable players who are converting from safety, have some stuff to work with in terms of potential. So do one of those guys, make a case. So I think they're going to end up, this is a tough one. I made a 53 prediction recently, and I had 5 linebackers making it with Mosley, Williams, Alexander, and then last year's 2 picks, Sherwood and Nasruddin. But Marcel Harris definitely could make it. Delshon Phillips could make it. What do you guys think for this position?
I think it is going to be Mosley. So you got Mosley and Quan in the sub package in the nickel. Mosley, Quan, Quincy in base. So Mosley, Quan, Quincy, and I think it's going to be Sherwood and Marcel Harris. Because they like Sherwood's leadership. He plays Mike. So I think Hamza is on the outside looking in right now, and I think that could be a surprise one. But obviously, the conventional wisdom has Marcel Harris out.
Yeah, I want Hamza to make it just because of his physical upside. Like I would really like to see that with his length, his explosion, his aggressiveness, and I think Sherwood, one of his interviews said that he put on 15 pounds, which sounds great.
I know you are not a Sherwood fan, Blewett.
Me and Blewett agreed on Sherwood too when we watched a couple clips and when he got me in Slack. But I'm thinking of it purely from a coaching staff perspective. What they
But
think.
man, he is slow already. 15 pounds, dude. I don't know how he's gonna move. He is not athletic at all.
He's just in such a better spot than Hamza in terms of importance to the depth chart, being a Mike.
And he has the
That's what it
Strangler,
comes down to.
The nickname of
Yeah,
what's
the
it, Forum Park
Strangler.
Strangler.
That's right.
Yeah. So past that, I'm gonna get into some quotes, and we have a ton to hit on in the chat, and then a little bit into the preseason game. We'll hit on it quickly. But Salah, some quotes from just this last, and not even quotes, just these are direct. Don't actually quote them, but Salah says that they'll dictate blitzes accordingly based on how well the 4-man rush is doing, which I thought was kind of an interesting nugget, which I think is almost always true, but interesting to hear him say it, I guess. He praised Mims' blocking and his route running ability, and how good of shape he's in, which is, again, maybe it's throwing it out there. Some other teams, hey, trade for this guy. I think that's a possibility. He also mentioned he knows it's a passing league, but believes in having to run the ball, and especially in this area because of the cold. And he believes in running the ball in the red zone. He mentions that Zonovan Knight's having a good camp. Then he also pays P. Ryan's pass blocking and insinuates that there was a weakness for him last year. And then he also mentioned that Becton was limping and fighting to get him in playing shape. So any of those quotes or kind of nuggets pique your interest? Is there anything else to add? Sabo, I know you were there. Again, I watch this stuff. I write it down. I don't really put it verbatim. But I know there are some quotes that people want to hear discussed. So
there's some availabilities I don't make because I got to leave. But I think the most important thing with Salah is you could tell how intent he is on overall health, and keeping guys healthy. It is beyond priority for him. Like it's probably religion for him right now in terms of praying to the gods at night. And I think that's the main thing. Like literally knocking on wood, doing the superstition in real time. I think that's the biggest takeaway so far.
Okay. Mims, the media was poking him a little bit about his goals, which like certain times I ignore it, but they were definitely poking him about like where do you see him on a depth chart and his goals for this year, and he kind of ignored it. He did bring up the fact that he's taking better care of himself and he doesn't eat any more fast food, which to me, maybe he was eating a little bit too much fast food in his second year. I don't know. That's kind of what it sounded like. He also said he feels he deserves to be a starter, that he put in the work to be the starter. Whitehead had an interview which he had high praise for Sauce, which I guess we can get into a little bit, but Whitehead had high praise for Sauce. CD had high praise for Sauce. He said that he's there early and he's the last to leave. He mentions that he's a dog. Again, it's just so sad that we have all these dogs, and Jamal Adams is off the team. He mentions, which come out a little bit this week, that he's a big trash talker. He said he's different, and he's on his toes when he goes against them. He said it's unusual for a rookie to be so confident. Solomon Thomas also mentioned Sauce, and he says if you can trash talk as a rookie and back it up, then you're pretty special. So again, it's not just like one player; it's every single player is glowing about Sauce. So, Nania, throw it to you. What are your thoughts about all these players blowing up Sauce's spot a little bit?
Yeah, I think Robbie mentioned it earlier, but it reminds me a lot of Elijah Moore's camp last season, to where he's playing consistently well to the point where it's hard to imagine him not playing well as a rookie. And that did play out with Elijah Moore. He had a great rookie season. And of course, the numbers weren't there to start, but as we know, in terms of what he was doing individually, like he had a great rookie season from pretty much, I think, from start to finish. At least I would argue. But yeah, I think just the consistency with which he's been making plays and impressing his teammates is very good to see. Because for me personally, I think as high as I am on his long-term potential, I think I'm ready to see him have some rough games, some ups and downs this year, because of corner is a very tough position for a rookie. We see rookie corners struggle every single year, regardless of how highly they're drafted. So I'm prepared to see that. But as he continues to have this type of offseason where he's just consistently dominating, it kind of makes it seem like maybe he is going to be, if not his ceiling to start out, at least very good even as a rookie. So, I think he's just raising his rookie year floor more and more because again, in terms of long-term ceiling, I think it's going to be there. He's going to hit it at some point, but it's just that what are they going to get from him this year? But as he continues to play more consistently in camp, it's just kind of raising that potential of what he will be this season. But the coolest thing I think about the way that this roster has kind of improved all around is I think you could get more accurate evaluations from players in camp because they're playing against better competition. Like we talked about Elijah Moore having a great camp last year. That's who Sauce is having a lot of these reps against, having his impressive camp. A guy who's maybe the best offensive player on this team. And then, it goes the other way. If Elijah Moore makes a good play, it's against Sauce. Sauce, Garrett Wilson, he's covering sometimes, Corey Davis, legitimate, talent at receiver versus, 3 years ago, maybe it's, just not as great of a talent on offense that the corners are covering. So
we've had off seasons of all the second team defenses dominating the starting offense. We're like, shit, is the second team defense that good or is their offense that bad? And obviously, it was the offense being that bad. But Nani, with that, I'll put you on the spot. Sauce does not give up his first passing touchdown until week what?
I think I'm gonna say week 3. The Bengals will get him. I think the first two teams won't be the greatest threat. The Ravens are, I think, going to pound the Jets on the ground. I think the Browns are not going to have Watson, might not be the greatest. Them too, I think, are going to be a big run first approach against the Jets. But Bengals week 3, I think, could be some trouble. So I'm going to go with that. But I don't think he's going to give up many this year. Maybe 2 or 3.
Sabo, lumping you into the the Sauce thing. I know you're gonna get into it anyway. But the reporter asked him about what trash talk they would use against him. So obviously you're one of the beat reporters. Would you trash talk Sauce? Could you run around him? Could you get a catch? How many routes did you have to run on Sauce for you to get a catch?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How many reps does it take for him to slip? It's pretty much what you're thinking about?
10,824.
All right. There you go. So another thing, I want to get your opinion on the Sauce thing. And then also with that being said, he said he was at 190 to start the offseason, and now he's at about 200, which you'd assume, okay, through training camp, he might lose a couple of pounds. But even if he was from 190 and he goes up to about 196, I think it's a good thing for him, just gaining some muscle. But overall opinions, again, about all the talk of Sauce, and then the fact that he gained about 10 pounds of, you'd hope, muscle. At this point,
he looks good. I mean, you don't look at the guy; he's got the length, and you don't look at him. You worry about looking at a guy with that length and go, "Man, he looks skinny for an NFL cornerback." You don't see that. You don't think that. So he looks good at his weight, and again, he's just the real deal, talent wise. I think mindset wise too, but we'll have to wait and find out. If I had to predict, I'll go the other way, where he'll give up a touchdown in week 1 to Lamar on some kind of crazy one-on-one blitz man scheme where something happens and he gives up one, but then he locks it down the rest of the way. Week 2, week 3, week 4, and on. I just think he's the real deal. I think he'll be a star.
So CJ Uzama also came out. He had high praise for how athletic Wilson is. Again, doesn't seem like he's not just saying it to say it. Like you could see he's almost like trying to hold himself back, and he's like trying to not be as excited as he is. But nice to see that. He praises the chemistry of the team. He also says that the team had to get out of the huddle quicker to evaluate the defense. He said that was a problem. So I don't know if you've been seeing that, Sabo, but if not, it is what it is. What is it called? Corey Davis. I almost said CD, and I couldn't think of whose name that was. But he mentioned his goal is 1K. Can he get that? Nani, do you think that there's a chance that CD can get 1,000 yards? Because he did bring that up to me. Too many targets in the offense, but is there an outside chance he can pick up 1,000?
I think there's an outside chance. I'd bet against it though, with how much LaFleur loves his scheme in terms of running, in terms of 12 personnel. He'll still be out there, obviously, but they'll rotate also, even in 12 personnel at receiver. So outside chance. He's just got to stay healthy. That's one of those guys. He's just got to stay healthy. Wilson likes him, but I expect Moore to take most of the bulk this year in terms of targets.
Yeah, I think there's a small chance. If he does have 1,000 yards, it to me it would mean one of two things. Either the Jets are having an amazing season and Zach Wilson is a star, because I think it would mean both Moore and Davis are hitting 1,000 yards, which would be crazy, or Moore kind of either gets hurt or doesn't really take that number one role and Corey Davis takes it, which could be fine because I think Davis is a good player. But last season he was on pace to not be too far off from it if he played 17 games. But I just think Moore is going to kind of take that top role this season. So I think it's pretty unlikely, but I think he could get 800 to 900, somewhere around there.
Solomon Thomas also came out. He said that True is on track to having an unbelievable year, which we've seen kind of backed up by a lot of other people. He also insinuated that, again, Sabo, you can't necessarily hit on it. I don't know, but he insinuated that Clemens is playing inside. I picked that up from his interview.
Clemens is playing a little bit inside. They're moving him around to see if there's anything there. Mm-hmm. And we know JFM will bounce back and forth this year, and Clemens. It makes sense too because they got to keep Clemens as a rookie no matter what. So seeing if he can play inside is a good shot.
Yeah, and I said that watching his film, I believe in the review, which I recorded whenever I was saying I think they're going to be able to use him a little bit on the inside, just like as a stunter. Like if you're asking him to penetrate and being that guy who completely blows up a guard who's not looking at him, I think he'll be good in that role. But getting to the chat, I think I am very far behind. Let's see where I'm at. Nania, we'll throw that to you. I don't know what I was just talking about, but hit on something so I can find where I'm in the chat.
I mean, let's talk about uniforms. What do you think about the black helmets?
Oh yeah, so Nania, you're a big guy into that. Listen, to me, like with all the hype, I don't know why Woody Johnson would put out a tweet about like the '80s helmet and say, like, what do you think about these helmets, and then get away from I understand not necessarily going fully back to that, but even with this black uniform, just throw that old logo on the helmet. Like, I don't get what that was about, unless they're going to do it next year. But I was frustrated, to be honest. I like the black, but I think they could have done a lot better.
I don't understand, man. Black goes
sort of a disconnect, It's like this fan base loves its old school, and they just don't really tap into it as much as they should.
Yeah, black goes with sharper logos better. That's kind of the way I feel.
Yeah.
And the rounder logos go with the green and white better.
Right.
So the sharper logo is the 80s logo. It's perfect. I don't know. I don't like the new uniforms. I just think it was a mistake. Switching the uniforms, listening to Twitter and players, two of whom aren't even here anymore, Jamal Adams and Darren Lee. I mean, grass is always greener, fellas. Grass is always greener.
Let's see. Dwayne Brown is in jail for gun charges. He is not in jail for gun charges. It was a similar thing that Q did. Like he tried to bring a gun on a plane or in his carry-on. Not his carry-on. I'm sure it's on a carry-on, but like he was trying to put it under the plane or whatever, and he got caught with that. I think it was more of a oversight than him trying to actually I don't want to say this, but shoot up a plane. Like I don't think that was his intent. If so, then I'm sure they would look into it and he would be on some list and he wouldn't be signed. But Square Peg, hey Joe, weekly shout out before I go watch the meeting. Sabo, Nania, all legend team today. It's fun to bring these guys on and talk with them. Haven't been on with them in a little bit. Sabo has to be the busiest person in the world, or at least one of the top ones. Let's see, because Sabo's so busy, and then I'll message him like, hey, by the way, 10 reviews dumped on your plate. Here you go, edit them, because he's that guy. I suck.
I've been writing a story the whole time we've been on video, by the way.
Oh no, that's fine. Just don't get your all to the stream. It's okay.
I'm just trying to exemplify my amazing multitasking abilities. So
James in Philly has a question that's more geared, I guess, to you, Sabo. Has Jeff Smith flashed since practicing with pads on? Everyone was calling for him over Mims without pads.
Everyone was calling for him over. What does he mean by that?
I guess like Jeff Smith was a darling early in camp when obviously they 7-on-7s and stuff like that.
Yeah, Jeff Smith's been Jeff Smith. I mean, the thing is, when in these practices, you're always going to get more call outs from the skill players than anyone else, because 7-on-7s, because they don't go 100%, because plays get extended and they don't stop. So Jeff Smith hasn't flashed any more than the next guy, like Rashard Davis has flashed or Calvin Jackson. So Jeff Smith is Jeff Smith, very useful. You could play in a lot of spots, special teams. They love him. The coaching staff has their players they love. Nathan Shepard being one of them, Jeff Smith being another. He's way ahead of Mims on the depth chart. We'll say that.
So you brought the defensive line, and while I sift through a little bit more of the chats, I want to put you guys both in the spot with the D line. Who makes it? because I think that's the best roster battle we have right now. I'm not gonna have you guys on before the roster is finalized. I'll do a prediction with Kyle, but like you talk about liking Nathan Shepard, if they keep 11, like you're going to assume, like obviously there's 6 DNs for me, 5 D tackles. That would put Shepard versus Marshall, like who is going to be that last spot. So we'll go to whoever's more ready first. I'll go with Nania. He's quick with computers, so I'm sure he has his 11 up, or 10 up, or 12 up. Who makes the roster at defensive line, Nania?
Yeah, I think there's between edge and defensive tackle, there's going to be a surprise cut here, I think, unless they're going to keep 12 guys between these two positions, which as deep as it is would definitely be a lot. So I think there are 3 guys of which 2 will make it, and I think those 3 are Curry, Shepard, and Marshall. I think one of those 3 is going to have to be out. And I think Vinny, as long as Vinny Curry's the same player he was, when they signed him last year, he absolutely should be on the team. He's can still be a very good situational pass rusher. He has size that some of the other edge rushers don't have. Great bull rush, locker room leader, all that stuff. He's a very worthy keep. But then you look at the tackles. Nathan Shepard is a guy who, like you said, Robbie, team is clearly high on him, but hasn't. Maybe they're a little bit higher on him than they should be based on the production throughout his career. He's also not on the young side. Then you have Marshall, who was, he was a draft pick, but he was also a 6th round pick, so not the highest pick. Didn't play much last season and didn't do a ton when he played. So I think you're going to see a surprise out of those 3. Is Marshall going to be out in year 2? Is Curry going to be, with edge being so deep, the Clemens pick? Is he going to be the odd man out? I would be surprised if it were Shepard, just because it seems like he's near the top of the depth chart and a big part of the plan. So I think Marshall. It might be Marshall. I think he might be the odd man out. Yeah.
So are you saying 11 guys? So I'm going to assume you're going to say Q, Solomon Thomas, Sheldon Rankins, Nathan Shepard, and JFM as the D tackles, and you got Curry, Huff, JJ, Michael Clemens, Carl Lawson, and there's another DN I'm forgetting about, Jacob Martin, who I saw somebody in the chat before say he was an underrated signing. He 100% is underrated.
Yes.
Is that your 11 guys?
Yeah. That makes the 11.
Okay, so Sabo, do you have a different opinion on 10, 11? Do you have a different guy in there?
I could see 10 or 11, but I think I'll go 10 at this moment. And here are the locks. I mean, Quinnen, Solomon, Rankins, Lawson, JFM, Huff, Martin, Jermaine Johnson.
You think Huff is a lock?
I do.
Okay, good.
And Clemens. So what is that? 9?
I was not counting off the top. Yeah,
that's
Nania, you're the numbers guy. Go ahead.
I wasn't really paying. I was listening, not counting.
All right, so Q, Thomas, Rankins on the inside, Lawson, JFM, Huff, Martin, and the 2 rookies on the outside. But JFM and Clemens could go inside too. So that's 9. 10 would be Shepard, Curry, Marshall. I would have to say Shepard to get that balance. So that would leave Curry and Marshall on the outside. And I think Curry will make it because I think this will work itself out where there's an injury somewhere along the line. So I think Curry will slide in for whoever gets injured.
At what point is it like, okay, the youth versus Curry, who I think they put him as an afterthought. He's one of our better rushers on 3rd down. Like you let him.
Yeah. I don't think, don't get me wrong.
Curry's going to be effective.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think Curry's going to not be on the roster. I just think he'll be, if no injuries happen, it'll be very tough. But I think this is one of those spots where it'll work itself out, where something will happen to one of these guys. And then he'll be that guy. He'll be that guy.
Okay. I had no idea what you just said because we all just froze very, very hardly, but we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving on. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, for sure. It was bad.
Bottom line, basically, to recap, I'm with Nania pretty much. But if they go 10, Curry is in the back of the mind as maybe not making it, but I think he'll make it in the end.
Yeah. A-Lab Studios or A-Lab Studios, do you really love – I don't know who said they love Corey Davis. He dropped a lot of passes last year. To me, I think he rounds out to what he was, even though there are some concerning reports through camp that he's dropping the ball a little bit more than we want him to, but I don't expect him to drop as many balls as he did last year. And even with last year, with that being said, I think it was a little bit like over exemplified because Zach Wilson wasn't getting the ball a lot down the field. And when he was getting the ball down the field, it was dropped. People really blamed Davis, but I think Davis is a little bit better than people think he is. Obviously, if he rounds out his drop or drops. Robbie, how has MC2 been looking from Sneakers to Boot, who I appreciate being in here?
MC2 is great. I mean, I love MC2. He's really good out of the slot. He's not being challenged by anyone, even though I like Guidry too. So lock him in at the corner, at the slot corner. It's just a matter of him working with the new guys. And so far, they're just locking everybody down. So yeah, MC2, be excited about him.
A couple questions for you, Sabo, and another one from Harold. Sabo, according to the media, Zach is completing about 76% of his passes over the last 5 practices, with about 90% adjusted completion percentage. Zach never had a stretch like that last year in camp.
Is he? Are those real numbers?
I don't know. Harold is one of those dudes who would track that. So it may be. So let's treat them as if they're legit.
Harold, don't do me a favor. Put those numbers out of your head, man. Don't worry about those numbers. They mean zero. They mean absolutely nothing. There are, I'd say, 1 out of every 8 plays where the play breaks down, he has nothing, and he scampers and runs. So that's a huge wasted play on most of them. So don't worry about the completion numbers. They mean nothing. In terms of how I feel about Zach Wilson, I'm still I was a huge Zach Wilson fan. I thought they made the right move. I still am a huge Zach Wilson fan, but I got to report what I'm seeing, and I'm still on the fence in terms of what to expect this year. It's not as rosy as I think fans believe, but that might be the best thing because I said it already. The DBs are playing very well, and the offense still needs time. We're still in early August, so give them time. We'll see what happens Friday too in Philly. Hopefully he gets, I don't know how many series he's going to get. Has anyone heard anything in terms of Saleh talking about Philly yet? No, right?
He said first, they're all going to get the first quarter. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, he said first quarter?
Yeah.
He said first quarter.
All right. So that's good. Hey, see what he's got on Friday night. Then we start there. That's really the starting point.
Somebody said Sherwood's a great tackler. Sherwood's a good tackler when he's in range, but his problem is angles, and he just really, really lacks athleticism. Like he was a really unathletic safety.
I can't believe he played, single high safety in spots in college. I can't believe it.
I have no idea how. And now that you're adding weight, he's not even like you'd automatically assume, okay, safety to linebacker, he's going to be an athletic linebacker. He's a below average NFL linebacker in terms of athletics, actually well below average. Just to be honest, like he's just not very loose. But let's see any other comments. There's about at 7:40, so I'm about 10 minutes behind. If you guys have any questions to end the stream, we got a couple more minutes left. Just throw your questions in there. We'll make sure we get to all the questions, at least anything that's actually asked. Good streams or elite ones such as this, appreciate that. Get me super pumped, ready for week 1. Hell, I can't wait for Friday evening. I wish I tried to get off so I could be with you guys until 4:00 in the morning talking about the Jets after the preseason game. I was not able to. But with that being said, about week 1, are you guys making an appearance week 1, or what's going on with you guys? Are you guys watching for your couch, or what are you guys doing?
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be out there.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, there's gonna be a massive tailgate in J1. Or at least in J. I don't know. I'm parking in J1. I think Gotham
You're
City's
going
like
too?
in J3. Oh, I go to all. I go to almost all the games. I'm going
Okay.
to that game. I'm going to Green Bay. If you're going to be in Green Bay, Robbie, the flights to Green Bay were so damn expensive. We looked into Chicago. We're flying into Chicago on Thursday. By chance, Chicago's playing the Commanders on Thursday Night Football, so I'll be going to Chicago or to Soldier Field in a bear costume with a Jets jersey on. I already know I'm doing it. I'm wearing a bear costume.
I kind of want to do that now. Go to Soldier Field as well. Wow.
Yeah, knock it out. I'm trying to see all the stadiums. So.
All right. Yeah, no, I'll be there week 1. I'm going Friday too. So this Friday to Philly. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Robby Sabo, you concerned about CD's drops?
I mean, no, because they have plenty of options. Mm-hmm. So as long as no big injury strikes, they have plenty of options. It'll work itself out.
I'll throw this to Nania from Piddle, one of the big offensive line guys. Take a Quanu, not Sauce. Just trying to sprinkle a little reality into all the Sauce love. He's an upgrade over Bryce Hall, to be sure, but he's not Revis. Nobody said he's Revis, but I think there is legitimate reasons to be excited about him. I was excited about him pre-draft. He was my second best player in the entire draft, only second to Aiden Hutchinson. The Jets got the second best player in the entire draft at corner. A guy, to me, I think I'm very, very I'm an asshole when I'm watching corners, and I absolutely love Sauce. So I couldn't be more excited. I don't think anybody's saying he's Revis, but there is legitimate reasons that people are talking about him throughout our camp, throughout the league. Sherman, like, there's a reason. But no, he's not Revis, and he's not probably going to be Revis. There is only one Revis who, to me, anybody in the NFL at any time in their prime, Revis is the corner I'm taking for a one-on-one rep versus anybody ever.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
he's not going to be Revis, and we know that. But Nania, thoughts on us needing to relax about him not being Revis? I'm not sure chatter us, but nonetheless.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like, I don't think he's going to be Revis because, like you said, Joe, I think he's probably, Prime Revis is probably the greatest corner ever. I think there's definitely a strong argument for that. And to project a player to be the greatest ever at his position or even close to that is definitely optimistic. But I think, does he probably have, maybe, like you said, behind Hutchinson, probably the second best chance out of any player in this draft class to be a perennial Pro Bowl, All-Pro kind of player? I think that definitely is something that you can say about him. So
I think Sauce has a higher ceiling than Aiden Hutchinson too. So
yeah, the ceiling I would definitely say is probably higher. I love Hutchinson too. I think he's a very high chance of being a Pro Bowl type player. But the ceiling with Sauce is really tantalizing, and he can be a great player. And again, we'll see what he does this season, because rookie season with any position, you don't know what you're going to get. There's always growing pains. Even Revis wasn't Revis until his third season is where the peak really started. Second season was a huge improvement too over his rookie year. So we don't know what he's going to be this year. But in terms of what he should give them over the span of his Jets career, it should be very, very good impact that should consistently make him the core of that defense. And, a guy who can have a really good ripple effect too, like the pass rush should have more time to get home with the guy who can cover like that man to man, which the Jets have not had, since Revis. It's going to do a lot to help the pass rush unlock its potential. And then just helping out the other corners, give them easier assignments, allow them to play on the side that they need to play on, in the role they need to play in. All these different things he's going to do should help them in the long term, beyond just his own impact and what he's going to do, the plays he's going to make. Beyond that, he's going to make it so much easier to build that defense and for other players to fulfill their potential. So he really does have that franchise player kind of talent, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Kyle Smith says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how jealous is Joe that I got to meet Ashton Davis and he didn't? He took a selfie. I haven't historically been the highest.
That picture.
I haven't been the highest on Ashton Davis. I wasn't the highest on him coming out of Cal. So that's one of the running jokes of the podcast, that and the McDermott thing, which somebody asked about if I said something about McDermott this show yet, which I have not. But you have Becton who goes down, and McDermott went down. I was like, he should make the roster anyway. I think Adoga is better than him, but nonetheless. Let's see. All-star lineup tonight. Yes, exactly. Sauce is a better version of Cromartie. I think he's better than Cromartie. I'm not saying he's Revis, but he's a lot more technically sound than Cromartie.
And Cromartie was still playing an era where it was somewhat possible to play corner. Like 2008 is, vastly different than today.
May actually be better on this side. I get to say, it's the first time I'm seeing Kyle in the chat, so that's fun. Wayne Hunter's available.
I mean, is it the real Kyle Smith? I mean, it sounds
no, it definitely is.
Up Kyle Smith.
No, it definitely is. It's unless they copied his profile picture, it definitely is. Kyle Smith. Who next week we are doing our top 25 list, which is my favorite show of the entire year. I don't care if anybody else likes it. I love doing the top 25 players.
You selfish bastard.
Does Sabo write the articles for Blewett film reviews, or does Joe? I've definitely noticed
Joe.
Sabo. So it's me who writes it, but Sabo undoubtedly touches it up sometimes. Undoubtedly,
we could have went our whole lives and not revealed that. You know that, right?
It's fine. I don't care. I'm an open book. Listen,
I love that.
We are the three. Obviously, we're the three co-owners of. You guys are the founders. I jumped in later. I'm the embarrassing brother of it. Like I'm the douche who shows up drunk on streams. I'm the asshole who's going to a Bears game in a Bears costume. I'm the one who can't fucking make my own shows. I'm just not technically savvy. It's just
Dude,
who
it's
I
only
am.
because I'm older though. If this was 20 years ago, forget about it.
I should be better with technology because you are older. That is the point. I could barely work Microsoft Word, so we're working on it. I'll get to all that stuff. I just do the film. I pretty much just drop it, and then everybody else takes care of it.
I didn't embarrass you guys at North Carolina when we were hanging out before the Panthers game. I was the nice old uncle.
Yeah.
I was happy that you were Sabo. The people don't know this, but Sabo got after a little bit. Me and Sabo were ripping some Jameson shots right there.
I told you, man. My heyday is well over. I've calmed down in my old age.
Yeah, and didn't me and Kyle beat you in foosball, Joe?
Okay,
A couple times.
I know, but
So,
I whipped
yes.
everyone's ass in pool though.
we got waxed.
Yes.
In my
Poole
defense,
Robby is definitely the king of pool. But
Who was my partner? Blewett? Was it me?
it was
or
me.
Blewett?
But so
Yeah.
you carried the team, but I did make that one shot where I skipped the ball over another ball, hit the bottom of it, popped over. But you definitely carried. And in my defense in foosball, hand-eye coordination when you're a lot of shots deep is not necessarily the most conducive to winning a game like that. But we'll have a rematch eventually. It's gonna happen. Let's see. Keep going down in the chat. At 7:55, I'm a little bit behind. Well, we can go to this one. Maz, what would it take to nab Roquan Smith in a trade? Throw that to Nania.
I think he'll probably get a. I don't know. Linebackers aren't the most valued position in the league right now. Pretty much every free agency kind of their value sort of lessens. And the reason he's available is because he's not getting valued by his team. So I don't think it would be a huge package, but I would say second round pick because you also have to sign him too, to whatever contract he wants. So I would say second rounder is probably my guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Jets would be involved though, for him.
CD, Robbie, say it. Jets receivers are below average. What are your are the Jets receivers below average? What are your thoughts on the group overall?
Below average. No, I wouldn't say below average. I think I think average is fine. I think average is all right now, and with a ceiling to go upwards.
Yeah, if you have like you said, I think they're average right now. But if Elijah Moore hits that ceiling of he is that number one, and then you have Garrett Wilson who shows flashes of being a legit receiver, then it goes much above that.
Mm-hmm.
Why not fly to Madison? I guess that's in Green Bay. Flight differences. It's a lot cheaper to fly into Chicago and then rent a car than it is to fly into Green Bay because I guess nobody really flies into there, so it's expensive. When you do see any more top, Kyle, please stand up. I'm a decent writer at times, but I definitely have some typos and I don't reread it and stuff. But there are some times I get some credits to my writing when I really want to. Who will be signed for week one? I don't know. Eagle fan, you'll be safe if you're wearing a bear costume. I'm wearing a bear costume with a Jets jersey on though, but I don't think people are going to want to fight. It's just I'm going to be a hammered bear. Like it's going to be an awesome time. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't really know if I have any rooting interest in that, to be completely honest. I'm a jerk in terms of like, okay, the Bears got Justin Fields, and now there's gonna be some Bears fans talking shit Justin Fields over Zach Wilson. So naturally, I want to root against Justin Fields. I'm not gonna lie. So I'll be rooting for the Commanders. I think. I don't know who I'll root for there. Let's see. Are we better positioned to stop screens this year? Nania, thoughts on that, and then we'll get to some final questions. We'll get into the preseason game really, really quickly, and we'll log off because we're pushing our time here.
I think Quan definitely will help in that department. Quincy Williams, though, I think as much as people like him, I really think when you think about the screen game issue, I feel like Quincy was a big part of that last year. So I think he has a lot to prove, but I think Quan can help in that area.
Yeah, Quan, Whitehead, the tackling corners, the trigger of Sauce. Like we saw plenty of that in his college tape of like him triggering on screens. So I think the secondary that they got will be much more helpful to screens than it will be like trap runs up the middle and things like that. So we need footage of this bear thing. Oh, it's 100%. There will be selfies. Like I'm not gonna not do it. I'm definitely not the guy to be like, no, I'm gonna do it and then not. So didn't say it was a blind. So Pittle is saying that the offensive line is as bad as it ever been and it's terrible. Listen, like going into the draft and even after the draft, which position's below average? Like if they are to add Dwayne Brown, let's say he's an average offensive lineman. I get there's some shuffling, but which offensive lineman on this team right now is below average. Like McGovern's average. Let's just say he's average. Let's say Fant is average to above average. ABT, we're expecting to be near Pro Bowl level. Laken Tomlinson was a Pro Bowler last year. So how is this offensive line that bad? Like, we've been trotting out guys like Van Roten and Brian Winters and Breno Giacomini, Wayne Hunter. This offensive line should be average at worst, in my opinion. So I don't know. Bear Blewett would be a sight to see.
Yeah,
It's great to
agree.
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your guys? Let's give quick thoughts, and then we'll bounce out here. Unless there's other questions, we'll hit really quickly. Really quick roundup thoughts on preseason. Apparently, we're going to see the starters play about a quarter. I don't know if Reed is playing. I don't know how long Zach Wilson plays. I'm not sure the tackles. Carl Lawson's playing, which scares the shit out of me. What are your guys' thoughts on preseason? What we're going to see Friday? What do you want to see? Et cetera. And obviously, there's a lot of position battles. We can get into it, like the backup safeties, the backup receivers, the fourth string running back. Like, there's plenty of things we can get into, but general thoughts on the game on Friday, which I believe is at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in Philly, right?
7:30.
Yeah, 7:30.
Okay. So, Sabo, what are your thoughts on the game?
I expect, as usually the case, the floor to be conservative, especially preseason, nothing flashy. Just want to see Zach Wilson make the correct reads. That's all. And that's what I look for in practice too. And for the most part, he's been doing that. It just looks ugly because he's scampering so much and scrambling so much. And even though it's the right move, oftentimes I worry a little bit that he's a little too afraid to take shots, to turn the ball over. So I'll be looking at that early on against Philly, make the correct read, start slow. And the O-line, how good does it look early on is another thing to watch out for. Sauce, let's see if he's the real deal right away. And injuries is the big thing. Salah will be on. Let's see how sloppy the tackling is. That'll give me a good gauge of where they are in terms of putting the pressure on the gas pedal, in terms of intensity, and but mainly Zach Wilson. That's the main thing I'm looking for.
What about you, Nania?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one is health. I think that's the biggest thing. Let's just get through this as cleanly as possible. But I agree with Robbie. I think all eyes are on the quarterback, and it comes down to the process more than anything, more than it is about the highlights or the stats or anything like that. It's just about the process and the decision making, because ultimately that's what any quarterback success comes down to, is are they making the right decisions, making the right reads? You could have all the talent in the world, doesn't mean anything if you aren't making the right choices with the ball. So I think that's what we'll be looking at, and it's going to be a vanilla game plan. It's going to be a short appearance, but with the limited time he has, it would be promising to just see him show some tangible improvement in terms of his comfort and his timing, and things like that. It is interesting though, because he was really good in the preseason last year. Like, the preseason Zach Wilson in 2021 was nothing like the Zach Wilson we got in the regular season. And he had a very promising preseason. So I don't think him playing well this preseason guarantees anything, but it definitely beats the alternative of him not playing well. So I think just see him be stable and safe and make good decisions is what you want to see.
Yeah, I don't really want to see Carl Lawson. I don't know who's starting at right tackle. I'd prefer it to be Chumadoga over McDermott. To be simple, I want to see everybody. Like, it's been so long. I want to see all these young players, and I want to evaluate some new film. It's pretty simple. So Zach Wilson hit the easy passes. That's what I'm looking for him to do. Mike is asking, how jealous are Nania and Joe of Robbie's underdog intro music, which I didn't know. I have to go and listen to it now because I can't even think of it off the top of my head, but I want to see if it's not up to par now.
He's probably talking about the overlays, because we could use calls from like classic calls from Quebec's past. That's probably what he's alerting, because the song is just a regular song from the site we use.
Like I said, I might have to change my intro a little bit. I don't know if the whole Becton thing right now is going to hit.
Yes.
That's a big portion of it, but
we'll change that.
We'll see. See, Nania, Sabo does the articles, Nania does the intro. I don't really do much.
What we can do is just leave the same voiceover, but put AVT clips. How about that?
Sure.
Is Kyle Smith still watching? Let's get a highlight from his high school days. Throw that in there.
Him crossing up fifth grade girls in basketball, like you always talked about. Yeah, we should get one of those. I have a highlight up in my phone. I can actually probably show it.
Oh, nice.
Let's see. I like to see some steak, clams, and beer. Clams and beer is a very interesting and probably bad combo, Mike. But that's on you. I don't drink clams and beer, but nonetheless, okay, that's it. I think I'm at the bottom of the chat for the most part. I gotta go sleep because I got midnights. Throw it to you, Sabo, first. Nice show. I'll see you again in a year. I appreciate you jumping on.
Fellas, it was fun. Yeah, we'll see what happens this Friday in Philly. And don't jump off a ledge if something happens bad. Don't celebrate either. We're still early, so let's see what happens.
Nania?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said, Blewett. It's the first preseason game is so exciting because you could just finally get some new film, some new footage to dive into. Finally see these guys in a real uniform on the real field. Because you spend so many months like rewatching the previous season. It's like you're just stuck with the Titans game, watching that a million times. The Bucks game, like let's get some new film. I'm very excited to have some fresh game tape to look at.
Yeah, for sure. Just new stuff,
yes.
And actually evaluating what Breece Hall is going to do and Michael Carter and just Sauce, just watching. I don't know how long Sauce is going to play. Let's say 15 reps, how hard we're going to evaluate them. Again, obviously, with that all being said, the streams will continue. The next stream for next week, guys, it's usually Thursday. Kyle's been going on Thursday, so it's either going to be Wednesday or Friday. I haven't committed completely yet, but check that out. Top 25 players. The preseason games, we're going to get film reviews of those. We'll have plenty of live streams. I am excited to talk about that, and we will catch you later.